Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Recato of Recato Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. Yes, I'm super late. Yes, I know, and I am sorry for that. But I believe we will have a guest joining in just a few minutes. I also had to clear out a little bit of space in my StreamYard cache so that this broadcast gets recorded. Otherwise, Ryan, the editor, would beat me again. He's so mean. He's mean. He's mean. Oh shit. Is the Rumble stream not working? Fucking hell. Weird. It is not. Let me add that in. Why is Rumble not on there? Save changes. Rumble stream should catch up in just a second, I think. Why are we not live on Rumble? Okay, I have an idea. Edit this. Save. Okay. File. The hell is going on over on Rumble? Oh, there we go. It's live. We're live on Rumble. Whew. Okay. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Rumble. I was unconscious when I set up the stream. I had to I had an appointment in the Twin Cities today, and I had the weirdest sleep schedule, man. So Sunday I slept like all day. After church, got home, bam, passed out, woke up at like 9. Looked at Lady Raggeds. I'm like, what time is it? She's like 9. I'm like, woman, let me sleep all day. And she's like, yeah, you look tired. So then Sunday night, I didn't hardly sleep at all. Last night, I slept like a couple hours, and then I just woke up because like, oh, well, you slept the whole day, you idiot. And so then today we had appointments in the Twin Cities that we had to drive to, and driving there and back always wipes me out. And so then I got home and took a nap. And so when I set up the stream, I was basically unconscious in bed typing on my computer. There were so many typos I had to fix. But anyway, speaking of typos that don't need to be fixed, let me welcome to the show a very special guest to help us go through this muddy topic. What's up, Mr. Barnes?
How goes it? And if anybody's at home wondering, what can you do to give yourself a little refresher to get yourself feeling better? Nothing better than a little fresh milk, farm fresh milk from AmosMillerOrganicFarm.com.
You're grifting immediately on my show. I love this. That makes me so happy.
Well, we got to stand up for Amos. Saw him I met all his people and his family and all the workers, and realizing the government wanted to shut a guy like him down who's doing all this great work just kind of pissed me off.
It's that guy. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Well, very cool. Big shout out to Amos. AmosMillerOrganicFarm.com. Very cool to see people helping them out. I remember seeing the story, but it kind of like slipped off my radar.
He's a great guy. It was smart of him. He was real insistent that I come up and visit in the farm, and just extraordinary, right? You get to see how farming used to be done. He did a dinner. It was probably a top 5 dinner I've ever eaten in my life. I mean, it was all fresh food. His kids were all sweet. The family was all sweet. The workers were all sweet. And the fact the government was willing to take actions to put this guy in jail and try to bankrupt him, it just made me angrier as I thought about it. I was like, well, I'm going to do everything possible to support him. But it turns out the milk is great, by the way. It's just flat out great. People think I'm doing cocaine. It's so good.
Bars over here.
Exactly. Just a little more milk. Just a little more milk. Boom, I'm ready to
go. Just a bump. I just need a bump.
Exactly.
Oh, well, welcome to the show, man. I'm really glad to have you on. It's been a little bit, and we've got this juicy discussion that's been going on for a week now. The conflict between Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire, which is kind of interesting, just how it built up into what it is. Initially, it's Crowder dropping some details on media contracts, which are very obscure things that most people in life would never have an opportunity to see in the first place. And he's out here like, hey, by the way, this is some bad stuff in these contracts. And it's really a shame that big conservative media groups are doing this. And then Daily Wire's like, well, hey, that's ours. Let me tell you about why this is good. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's the best way to do this, but okay. And so then Jeremy Boring comes out and talks through the whole contract, because Crowder had only showed a couple of the what seemed to be more predatory looking terms. And he's like, well, it's not a contract. It's just a term sheet, which is a little dishonest, frankly, because if Crowder just walked in the door and said, I accept, then it's a contract, period. But he explains it's their initial offer, and no, they expect a whole lot of negotiation here. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, this isn't how you negotiate with friends. Like, this isn't how you negotiate with a colleague who you trust, who you know their value. This is how you negotiate with someone you either don't know or you're almost hostile with, is how it looked to me. But what was your assessment of this thing?
Absolutely. I mean, I've known more of the background and context of some of this than a good number of people, probably in the conservative media space, have done contracts for years, over 20 years of all size scale, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, doesn't, all levels. And my first thought was, in part, when he was just describing it, not knowing it was Daily Wire, I was like, this sounds like dumb lawyers messing up a contract by being too extractive and not knowing that's not how you do good contract negotiation. That just pisses the other side off, especially creative talent. You want to piss them off. I mean, having represented a good number of people in Hollywood, they will get irrational if you do things like what Daily Wire did. But once he outed Daily Wire, I was like, once Daily Wire outed itself, I was like, I knew other people that had negotiated with the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire's backstory, a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people came to it over the last couple of years. My theory about Daily Wire from the get-go is that a lot of their financial backers care more about being a gatekeeper in conservative space than they even do making money. Because there were a lot of ways to do this contract that would have guaranteed both sides plenty of money. And they blew it up. Daily Wire blew it up from day one.
It's crazy, because the way you do this initial offer, first of all, is you don't put any of that penalty shit in there at all on your initial offer. Like that's just crazy to put out there. By the way, you're going to bear all the burden of production. And if anything goes wrong in any way and you miss anything, we're going to penalize you on top of the fact that you're bearing all the costs of production. That shouldn't be in the initial offer sheet. Like, as much as Jeremy Boring's like, well, lawyers could come in and redline. And Candace Owens sounded like an absolute insane person to me on Tim Pool, but she's like, my lawyers would just redline that. It's like, your lawyers shouldn't have to redline that. That should be terms that come in once you've got that. You get the handshake down on the initial offer. You put dollars on the table. You put a basic understanding of the terms, like, here's how many shows we think you should do. You get that stuff out there. All of the sort of really mechanical nitty gritty stuff that should come with the contract that Boring said that this wasn't actually that this document wasn't actually being. That should come in later when the lawyers are fighting over stuff on the nitpicky stuff, and they go back and forth to try and get stuff kind of hammered out. Well, this is how we do business. And then you go back and forth. Well, 100,000 is way too much for missing a show. How about 50 or whatever? you iron those details out later. To me, it was just very strange to start off with such hostile terms for such a friendly contract.
Absolutely. And what that told me, other people that had had contract experience with Daily Wire came away thinking that their motivation wasn't mostly to make money, that it was something else because of their interaction with them. And these were high-end people at the high-end level. This wasn't, your receptionist or anything.
Right.
And that was I always had suspicions from day one because of how they got founded and who was giving them all the money. Certain billionaires that were obsessively anti-Trump and had some spooky connections, let's say. And so I thought they picked Ben Shapiro because Ben Shapiro was kind of a stayed within the Mitt Romney Gate Overton window of permissible conservative conversation. And so this contract looked like an attempt to limit Crowder, not an attempt to make money off of Crowder, all about limiting Crowder. And they seemed almost surprised when Crowder just didn't jump at the opportunity to have all these strings attached. If some people say, well, what would have been a reasonable offer, Robert? Real easy. You do a revenue sharing deal. Crowder does this all the time. I mean, he described it on Tim Pool tonight. He was like, all the time, I'll go when I do a comedy gig, I'll say, don't give me the guarantee, give me the gate share. Give me a share of what comes in the door. That's it. You guys will make money off the drinks and everything else. Give me the gate. I'm good to go. You don't have to guarantee a penny for me. That's how a lot of artists like him operate, particularly when they're in the sort of entrepreneurial personality like he is. And that's what you do if you're actually wanting a business deal like Daily Wire. You for example, you don't put in a penalty. You say we'll pay you $65,000 per episode that you produce. Right? If you don't produce an episode, you don't have to pay the $65,000, right? But it's that simple. You give them upside. If X number of subscribers come in, you get a certain percentage. If a film does well, you get a certain percentage. If you do a comedy routine, you get a certain percentage. And if you think we're going to get a bunch of subscribers, we're going to get a bunch of sponsors, great, you get the percentage. If for some reason you lose sponsors, if for some reason that sponsorship revenue doesn't come in, then your percentage share goes down. He would have had zero problem with that. And that's where Ben Shapiro's response, not only was it emotional, it was like, Benji, bad contracts don't care about your feelings, bro. It was way over the top.
I didn't even watch his responses because I just read the titles to the videos and I was like, come on, but how Steven Crowder betrayed his friends. It's my review of his despicable betrayal.
he called it the most disgusting thing he's ever seen in politics. Where have you been, Benji? The most disgusting thing you've ever seen in politics? Has your head been completely up your ass? I mean, unbelievable. So and then boring was a little bit as we know in this industry, saying, oh, it's just a term sheet, it has no meaning, that's very disingenuous. A whole bunch of stuff he said in it was really disingenuous. So I already had suspicions about Daily Wire, more because people thought it was because I was a big critic of Ben Shapiro. That isn't the reason I was skeptical. It's because I knew about how they were founded, who their money people are, and how other people had dealt with them, coming away saying, people that could have helped really make the Daily Wire a true big conservative Hollywood film engine. I mean, the kind of people that had the connections to do that. You're talking about substantial Hollywood people. And they came away saying they don't seem to actually be committed to that. They seem to be committed to just making pet projects and select films with select topics. They don't want carte blanche control that will actually free up creative content and get creative people in the door. And this deal was not, it was never even like he said, oh, Ben Shapiro, well, we're not running a charity here. Nobody's asking you to run a charity. They'd simply do a revenue sharing deal. Share the revenue, share the risk. Simple, elemental. Crowder would have jumped all over that. I think Crowder thought they would. I think Crowder was a little naive about who I think the Daily Wire is. I think some other people are too that are out in this space.
They're learning now.
Yeah, they're slowly but surely. Exactly. I thought he did great tonight on. I've seen a lot of clips that people are misinterpreting and misunderstanding. I watched the whole show. I even sent in a super chat. Unfortunately, I guess for Tim Pool, you got to send in the super chat late rather than early. But no biggie. It was because I was going to tell Crowder I'm willing to help pro bono because he said he wanted to build a team of lawyers to help young content creators negotiate these deals. I'll help pro bono on that. My bandwidth is not limitless, but I'd be happy to help with that. I've done tons of these deals.
Right.
But yeah, I thought the real story is the Daily Wire's in bed with big tech, has a cancel culture clause in their contracts as what, according to Jeremy Boring, and is standardized. And that's what upset and offended Crowder. And the Daily Wire and their simps are talking about anything but that. I mean, they're talking about the everything other than that under the sun. And it's been interesting to watch. The Daily Wire clearly has strong, maybe it's bot support, maybe it's other support, but like I did a poll on Twitter and then did a poll on my locals board. Locals board has no bots because of the nature of the structure.
Right.
My guess was that it was going to be 10-1 people sided with Crowder. And that's exactly what it was. Viva put up a poll, thought maybe if you change the language, it'd be different. Sorry, Viva. Same way, 10-1. Twitter, it was back and forth, almost as if people were brigading it. And so but I thought the personal attacks, I mean, just court of public opinion, PR, I thought everything Daily Wire has done on this has been complete crap. One, they didn't need to out themselves. Crowder likely would have never disclosed their identity. Two, because Crowder's more interested in getting rid of these clauses, not waging a personal war with the Daily Wire. Second, don't send out crazy Candace, because you get Candace, the interesting populist voice on topics. I like that version of Candace. But if you've watched her over the years, when she gets personal, she goes berserk. She goes complete. Yeah. People have been calling her, Karen Owens. I mean, she goes just off the charts nuts. I mean, she did it to Nicole Arbor. She did it to the congressional candidate who sued her in Baltimore. She did it all the way back in the beginning with Blair White. She did it with other black conservatives that called her out early on because of her history of being a pro-liberal doxer and things like that. If I was the Daily Wire's political advisors, I would be like, one, I would have handled this totally. I would have shut my mouth. If I did talk, I would limit who talked. I would limit what they talked about. And I definitely don't. And it looks like they're weaponizing people. Like Michaela Peterson is out there trying to defend him. And, Matt Walsh is burning up his credibility with his new audience from his film by, attacking Crowder on a daily basis. This is just dumb strategy. Crowder is yet to attack any of them personally. They have called him an idiot, a liar, a bitch, a disgusting traitor who is this is horrible behavior by the Daily Wire completely. But I think it exposed who they really were. Lawyer taught me years ago. Said, don't worry if you hear somebody screaming on the other side, Bobby. That means he goes, only a stuck pig squeals. And the Daily Wire has been squealing loud.
Yeah, their response was honestly, like, even Jeremy Boring's response was honestly shocking. I don't think if they were going to out themselves, I don't think going through the whole contract the way he did was the best move. I would think he should have just kept it really simple and said, hey, look, we're in business to make money. We're in business to spread the conservative message. And the way we do that is making contracts that are favorable to creators and favorable to Daily Wire. Now, that's capitalism. If Crowder doesn't like the contract, that's fine. That's up to him. We have all sorts of ways to work through negotiations and make sure that at the end of the day, these contracts are favorable for both parties. That's what we try to do. Crowder didn't really want to engage in those negotiations, and that's fine. We wish him well. Something like that.
Exactly. I would have just said, hey, we have a different business model. It turns out our models are different. We want Crowder to be really successful. It turns out we couldn't unite on those models. We understand his criticism, but our business model is different based on our obligations to investors and shareholders.
That's it.
Limit it. None of this personal stuff. Don't misrepresent. Like my favorite one was he took the contractual provision that required all the production costs be borne by Crowder, and he pretended it was a creative licensing provision. I was like, this is the most dishonest. Well, I was like, come on.
We know Crowder wants control of his show, so we just offloaded all of the costs of production onto him. That's perfect.
Exactly. And the fact that
we lowballed him by $70 million.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I did the math for me. It was like, this isn't a $50 million contract. If Crowder got censored, he's going to end up owing the Daily Wire money so they can own his content for 6 years. I mean, that's how bad. This was literally the worst contract I have ever seen in my life.
It was nuts. And I think Daily Wire made a calculated risk to go, well, when people see the number is 50 million, then they'll be on our side. And it's like, well, I mean, some people, yeah, because again, and I said this the other day, if you're a guy who's making between $50,000 and $250,000 a year, I mean, you're even pushing towards like the top 10% of American income earners. $50 million looks absolutely, or 12.5 million a year looks absolutely insane to you. Like this, how could this possibly be worth it? It's like, but you've never seen how much money is in social media, especially when you've got a show like Crowder's. $50 million. It'll keep the lights on so long as it is that 50 million. And Crowder will take a little bit home, but he's not taking much home after that. He pays a huge staff of people. Production costs are high. Advertising costs are high. All of these things go into it and chip away at that 50 million. Oh yeah, by the way, taxes too. Just a massive amount of taxes on it.
And when you delegate to big tech that says we're going to take the other thing about this, people have been trying to. I was arguing with Mark Dice about this. He was trying to interpret the contract, and I get a kick out of people that keep interpreting a contract and says, "Well, here's what the contract means," and they use language that's not in the contract. A lot of ordinary people that we've represented over the years, that's how they get suckered, right? They think that the verbal conversation or the parole evidence rule, folks, it doesn't matter. The only matters what's in that written contract. Unless there's an ambiguous term in that contract, you are stuck with what you signed, no matter what you thought, no matter what somebody verbally even told you at the time you signed the contract. I mean, remember McDonald's? Kroc did this to the McDonald's brothers. Remember when he screwed them out of all of their money, stole their whole franchise and brand? He was like, but it's not in the contract, is it? But you promised us. It's not in the contract. Screw you. He goes, I mean, or the famous line from the movie where McDonald's like, we own this. And the Kroc says, well, do you? Do you really? I mean, that's how that world works. And so the actual contract, it said things like this penalty applies from this point forward. It didn't say it only applies for the length of time you're suspended. It says it applies from this point forward, period. That contract would most likely be interpreted to mean they could impose up to 110% in total penalties, at least 85% just on the big tech side. And Crowder was still obligated to produce 192 episodes a year for 4 up to 6 years. What does that mean? You just estimate very low end of what his production costs are. He was going to end up having to pay them money. He was going to net be out of pocket to give them 100% license exclusive.
Yeah. So real quick, you said a cool legal term. I got to say hi to Good Logic and his crew who've just rated the show. Thank you. Welcome, guys. Enjoy the breakdown. Joe, I hope you're doing very well. You said a term. It's a legal term that people may not know. It's the parole evidence rule. And what that is when you have a contract where all of the terms are clearly kept within the 4 corners of the contract, and usually your contract will say this is a binding agreement that encompasses the total agreement between both parties. Nothing outside of this contract applies to this. Otherwise, you would incorporate like a separate document by reference. Let's say you have an appendix for a rate sheet or something, or like you have a clarification on the penalties and terms on that. You would include the penalty appendix or whatever. But you say this is the complete agreement between the two parties. Once that's understood, you don't get to say, well, this is what we meant. This is what we said during negotiations. This is what they promised. No, once there's ink on the paper, that is the total agreement. No matter what you thought, what's in there is what's in there. And parties get wrapped up in this all the time. We promise we won't do this. Like, well, then write it down. And it's very simple. If that's your promise, write it down.
Exactly. To Mark Dice and all these other people, they keep saying things that were, well, this would have been in there. And I'm like, why was it in there from the beginning? It's like, if it's not in there, then it ain't in there. Don't say, well, I think they meant this. I think they intended this. I think they hoped for this. If you actually hope or intend for any of those things, you put it in writing from the get-go, especially when you're trying to get a contractual deal. As you pointed out, you start out with the carrot. You don't start out with the stick. You start out with a carrot, so they're so invested by the end, you stick them a little at the end. But you don't start out with the stick unless your goal is the stick.
Right. Yeah, they were Mark Dice. I haven't seen Mark Dice's analysis of it, but if he's saying, well, that would have been in there, he's relying solely on Crowder's lawyers putting that in there, because Daily Wire has interestingly laid out there in what looks, I mean, I can't imagine they're going to fish for more after this, but maybe they would. But it looks like they've laid out, these are the worst terms we're going to give you. So we want all these bad things in there. Now you have to figure out what parts of it you don't want. And that was really weird. And I think that was my favorite part of watching Candace Owens on Tim Pool. And I said this was, I think she realized in real time that she got a shit deal from Daily Wire. She could have probably.
Well, I think that's why they're all nervous. I think that's why Michaela Peterson is out there simping for Daily Wire. Is I think they're all nervous that people are going to question the authenticity of who they are as spokespersons, because they're wondering, do you too have this disincentive in your contract? And notice, by the way, none of them have disclosed their contract, right? Which is okay, but it kind of tells you something. And I think that's why they're all paranoid. I think it's why Matt Walsh is going nuts, and all these other people are going nuts on their side of the aisle. I think it's why Shapiro and Boring went nuts. It's why Candace went nuts, because a lot of people in the conservative space would not have the same degree of confidence in the Daily Wire or any of their content creators if they believed that they were under censorship deals with big tech. And I think that, and I don't think that Crowder intended that to be the highlight. His whole thing was, young creators now are totally screwed if this is the future of conservative media. Right. And if we don't reverse this now, conservative media is dead. That's why he's like, I understand not getting into a fight between conservatives. He's like, but you don't understand. We're all DOA if this is the model going forward. But I think he probably didn't fully realize that how this impacts their brand. How much of independence? I do wonder now. Well, the other thing is it really a coincidence that so many of the Daily Wire spokespeople on the big topics of big tech in the Overton window have been on the wrong side? Whether it was Trump to start with, or later Russiagate, or later COVID lockdowns, or masks, or vaccines, or later elections, or the Ukraine war. It's almost any of the hot topics that big tech has been obsessed with censoring. Daily Wire is kind of almost all their people have been magically on that side. And people
I've seen a tweet floating around from Shapiro back in August of 2020. Something says, in other words, get the vaccine, dope.
You dopes.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing it aggressively.
Was that not serious? Or was that serious?
Oh, no, that was absolutely serious. He was telling people they were needed. He was defending masks early on. He was defending lockdowns early on. He defended Russiagate early on. I mean, of course, he whores for every war.
He hated Trump, too. He hated Trump.
In fact, Jeremy Boring told people, Amanda Milius, for example, like, here's an example of what Daily Wire is up to. If Daily Wire is really interested in conservative content outside of the Overton window, within the Overton window, they create lots of interesting content, including, What is a Woman, all the rest. Mm-hmm. But you go outside that Overton window, look at the films being made by Amanda Milius, daughter of John Milius, one of the greatest Hollywood directors of all time. She's invited me to go out shooting with him, which would be awesome. Great, a lot of great stories. There's a documentary I recommend on Milius. Some of the Milius stories are just wild and crazy. I mean, he used to take his daughter to smoke cigars at the Beverly Hills Cigar Club, where I've been. He's like, come on, honey. She's like 6 years old, running around. He's smoking cigars. But she did Plot Against the President. She's doing a John McAfee documentary. Daily Wire's not reaching out and signing up to her. She's been adverse to them for a while. And She outed that Boring from the very beginning was pitching people that their entire publication was about being anti-Trump. And if you knew the further background, it was rage at Breitbart getting Bannonized in populist direction. Shapiro left in protest. Billionaire backers of Ted Cruz created the Daily Wire to depopulist, if you will, the conservative movement, to sort of gatekeep it. And that's what this contract was, a gatekeeper contract. That's what it was. I think Crowder thinks they're just confused about their model. I don't think he understands the broader scope of who the Daily Wire really is. If you were serious about making money, you never make the offer they made to Stephen Crowder.
Right. And the other part of that contract that is very suspicious in the wake of how people have responded is the social media control aspect of it. Now, in Crowder's offer sheet, they said, well, we're not going to go after your personal Instagram and your personal Twitter. But they also said that all contracts are unique. And there's been some very sort of, I think some people are really surprised at how those social media responses have been. Jordan Peterson initially making a tweet and then deleting the tweet. Jordan Peterson's presumably like, no, this is a big con. We can't have this. And he's like on Crowder's side. And then, oh shit, it's Daily Wire. Bleep. Yeah. Or someone more appropriately, Jeremy Boring called up and said, by the way, this is our contract. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Right. And turns it off immediately. But it kind of looks like there's some social media control and some unification of voice. And I think that's what you were talking about earlier. People now have to ask questions that were never asked before. Are these guys independent voices? Are they even able to have an opinion that differs from what the Daily Wire wants? I mean, Jeremy Boren comes out and says, well, all of our guys, we have disagreements all the time. It's like, well, actually, I don't know that because I don't watch your content. And now I don't believe you. And I don't know if your disagreements are handed out like story rooms or like stories in a newsroom in an old time paper where it's like, okay, you do this story, you do this story, you do this story. It's like, okay, you're the anti-vax story for the day and you're the pro-vax story for the day or whatever it may be. I mean, I have no idea. And now I can't trust it because I've seen the meat and more appropriately, the fat and gristle that they have burdening down their contracts. And I have to rely on the competency of all of these people's attorneys. I don't have faith in the competency of most attorneys.
Exactly. And then you add in, look at who else has defended them. Reuters, AP, Sam Cedar, the Young Turks, Media Matters, all universally repeating the Daily Wire's line. And
wait a minute.
That's a little odd.
I can't imagine. My friends over at the Daily Wire putting out this contract. Steven Crowder comes in and like rips it up. Yeah, okay, Cenk. I know you have your like Georgetown law degree or whatever, but you should return it. I've thought that forever. Which is funny that he's defending them because he got so embarrassed by Ben Shapiro in that debate years ago when Ben clearly had researched the topic and prepared like a lawyer, and Cenk just walked in there thinking he could just talk about it. Got demolished. That's literally like the only thing I've ever watched fully of both Ben Shapiro and Cenk, or of either Ben Shapiro and Cenk, was that one debate. And I was like, oh, this is a bloodbath. But yeah, to hear Young Turks, if Young Turks are for it, I'm against it 99% of the time. I can't think of anything where I would agree with them on. So if they're for the Daily Wire contract, that should tell you all you need to know. And that was Crowder's point. His point was interestingly not just that this contract is bad and controlling. It's like, this is how they do it. This is how the other side does it. And we don't need to do this. We should be better, but we're not. And yeah, that's exactly how it looked.
The other thing is, in terms of making a big deal about him taping him, the bottom line is this guy was no longer his friend, and it was clear he wasn't taping a friend anymore. And it was, I mean, I've advised clients in this exact situation. You're Steven Crowder. You're thinking about doing something that might embarrass a billion-dollar company owned by billionaire owners who are so litigious they'll drive, fishermen and hikers off their land in Idaho and Montana. All right. So this is a company that could kill you, crush you. And they're going to represent things totally different than you represented. You only have a little bit in writing. So what would I tell them? You tape record that conversation. You get that on tape so that your version is there. And of course, he didn't release the tape until Boring misrepresented what the conversation was. But it's like why Project Veritas records things. I understand people saying don't record between friends. They were no longer friends at this point, folks. They were adversaries.
If you don't understand this, when you are like, your friend owns a business and you're like clearly qualified talent in the field, and your friend says, hey, we want to do business with you, and they hand you a contract that looks like that, that's a literal middle finger to you. That's them saying, we don't actually value you. We want to control your opinion and your voice. We want to monetize your brand to our benefit, and we have no interest on whether you grow from it or not. That's what they said to Steven Crowder. So again, this whole like we're friends thing, that was not a friend. So that I also said it's really kind of a common thing on social media, specifically to refer to everybody as friends, like in politics. Oh, this is my friend. So my actual friend was speaking at our church this week, and he was a Minnesota House member, and now he is the executive director of a pro-life organization, pro-life nonprofit. And so he was speaking about that, and he pulled up a picture, and he was naming all the people in the picture. It was a session of Congress Minnesota just passed one of the most permissive abortion / sterilization bills in the country through the House. It's got to go to the Senate. It's likely going to pass, and then the governor's going to sign it. It's gross, but he's naming the people in the picture. He points at this one lady. He's like, "This is my friend so and so." I don't remember her name. He's like, "When I tell her that she's a communist or a socialist, she takes it as a compliment. Like, that's how liberal she is." And this dude is so like dyed in the wool conservative that I've talked to him about like legalizing weed and how that will connect with the next generation of Republicans and libertarians. And he's like, "I will never, ever vote to legalize weed. My constituents would never approve." I'm like, half of them are on weed. They're half of them at least.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, they're over 65. I'm like, "Then they're definitely smoking weed. They've been smoking since the 60s, dude. They don't care." But he's like extremely conservative. And he's talking about this friend. Friend is a moniker that you apply to people that you're neutral with at best in media, because it doesn't benefit you to make enemies until you're ready to make an enemy out of someone. So him saying he's friends with Daily Wire and those guys, I don't know if that's even true prior to this, or if that was more of a term of like friendly nonviolence against them. But yeah, you're right. If they were friends, that offer was sent. They're no longer friends. You're not my friend if we're talking like that.
Precisely. And like there was all this misinterpretation. He did clarify some things on Tim Pool tonight. He was like, "Yes, we made a counter." He goes, "My agent probably countered something in terms of money, but the focus of our counter from day one was no matter what, we can negotiate on money, we can negotiate on the rest, but these cancel culture clauses can't be in here. Period. That's non-negotiable. Send us back a contract that doesn't have it in." The Daily Wire then said, "No, they're non-negotiable. They have to be in." And then the Daily Wire misrepresented the negotiation process, pretended there hadn't been, if you dig into what they say, they actually admit this, but they bury it in how they say it. So I said, I'm still having to explain to people. I'm like, go listen to Ben Shapiro. He says Crowder countered. We refused to counter. That was the end of it. It was Daily Wire that ended the negotiation, not Steven Crowder.
Right. Which is crazy, because I would have just walked on the first thing.
Oh, yeah. I would have sent him give it a spurt. I'd have been like, no way. I'd have been like, I'm going to out you for this nonsense. I would have been that way. I would have been right out of the gate. Crowder, I think, doesn't want to fight other conservatives. So that's why he, went back and forth on it, back and forth. People made a big deal. Oh, he started, Stop Big Con. That's because that was months after he knew that it had fallen apart. I think it had it, but he wasn't sure what he was going to do. And I think it didn't even wait. I mean, even up until the end, I think he wasn't sure what he was going to do. And I don't think he really thought Daily Wire would out itself. He'd protected himself with the recorded phone call and other things, but I don't think he expected Daily Wire to out itself, because there's so many people thought maybe it's Epoch Times, maybe it's Rumble, maybe it's other people. It's like there's no chance it's Rumble, because I've seen Rumble's contracts. They don't do any of that nonsense.
Nothing. And I've been telling people that, like, obviously I'm not disclosing all of the terms of my contract or really anything specific, other than there's nothing like that in a Rumble contract. There's no social media control. There's no control of any opinion. There's not even a non-disparagement clause. Like, if I want to say Rumble is a shit platform, like, I can say that. I think it's a platform that is growing and great, and I love the freedom that it provides. But I have that freedom is literally for me to say something's bad about it, or everything's bad about it, or the people are bad. And what would happen if I started doing that is eventually we would get to the point where they'd be like, "Okay, well, we can go ahead and end this contract if you don't like doing it, and that's fine." And that'd be okay. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I love those guys. They're terrific. But that's how open the contract is. And so I'm like, I've seen a media contract. I've seen mine, and I wouldn't take Crowder's deal. Like, I'll take the 50 million, but we're getting rid of basically all of the control. Like, that's insane.
It was a sucker's contract. It was like a classic music industry contract, where what you do is you put a big dollar amount up front, and the person goes, "Oh, that's great." And they don't realize buried in the details takes all that money away. That's why musicians, that's why Kanye's probably crazy. It's some of those contracts he had to deal with when he's younger. But, credit to Rumble. To give an example of how Rumble is early on. So they hired me and Viva to help create some rules for them. And I was public right on TV with one of our sidebar interviews with Pavlovsky. and told him, by the way, if you break your, I was like, one, if you're serious about this, you're going to, before you go public or have any part raising money on the public market, they're not fully public, he still owns it, but part of it is a public portion. I said, go in and tell everybody you're going to be a cancel-free platform. And I said, by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, if you break your word on that, or if anybody else buys Rumble and breaks their word, I'm going to be the one to sue him. He said, no problem. When he retained me as counsel, I said, you recognize I'm still going to sue you if you break your word. He said, no problem. I want you to. So he's taken a totally different approach. Great shout outs to Rumble tonight by Crowder. Crowder's like, anybody that's got the cojones to give the finger to the French government rather than regulate their content is a company worth it. And that was part of his argument with Shapiro and with Daily Wire. He's like, look, folks, Rumble is a legitimate platform. I mean, this is the other thing people are saying, oh, well, Daily Wire can't afford to lose money. That wasn't what the contract provided for. It didn't say if we lose revenue, you lose revenue. It said if you get canceled by big tech, we take away all your revenue. And Crowder's point was, I can go to Rumble if I get hit. And I already had 500,000 live streamers. We can easily make sure to keep the revenue the same. And I can guarantee you Rumble's ad revenue is most likely much higher conversion rate because you have a much...
The crazy thing on Rumble, so to speak with lots of experience on this, is Rumble currently doesn't have mid-roll ads on live streams, which is fine because their CPM is so high. It's higher than YouTube's. So it's crazy because on my two platforms, the ad revenue on Rumble is starting to rival YouTube, and YouTube will let me put 4 or 5 ad breaks or whatever in a video if I want, so I can squeeze out extra dollars. Rumble's doing the same revenue per video with one ad that's a pre-roll only. When they get mid-roll ads on some of this stuff and they automate it in, I mean, the advertising revenue is going to be there for creators pretty quickly. And so they're making good deals with advertisers. They're getting huge results. By the way, big shout out to the Rumble audience. We're live on YouTube for a little bit longer. We've got 6,000 people on YouTube. Love you all. Thank you for that. We've got over 11,000 on Rumble. And we're noticing this night after night that we've got between 2 and 3 times the audience showing up on Rumble than are showing up on YouTube. And conservatives specifically should take note, or right-leaning voices should take note that YouTube will throttle your engagement over and over. I've watched it for years happen directly to me. I have watched the numbers get cut in half at arbitrary places where one day, and I'm not talking like, oh, there was a big topic and then there's not a big topic. I'm talking there's a dry spell of topics and you go from 5,000 viewers to the next day, 2,600. And you're like, what the hell did I do? Did I diddle the Pope while I was drunk? I don't know what happened, but suddenly I'm at half viewers and you realize, nope, YouTube just flipped the switch. And I just got out of one of the switch flips myself where every video I put up during the day, nothing happens. Nothing happens with subscriber numbers during the day. You put out a video, lose 200 subscribers. That happened for 3 straight months. And then the other day, turned off. Now every video I put out, I gain 100 subscribers. It's like, okay, thank you. YouTube's got their fingers on the triggers of every single channel, and they can turn it on and off like a sieve. Rumble doesn't do that. Rumble's a meritocracy. Bring the eyes, you get them on there, and then they're there. And then they'll also distribute your content to other people so they can start watching it. They've got the leaderboards, they've got the category boards, they've got all of these different things for creators to get their content out there. And by the way, if you're like a music creator, Rumble is kind of looking for music creators, and there's lots of opportunity there. There's not a lot of competition. It could be a good way to start a channel. All of these things exist, and they don't have that. If you're right leaning at all, you should really be looking at Rumble, because YouTube doesn't like you, and Rumble doesn't care what your opinions are. They want people to come, experience the platform, enjoy it, and help it grow.
And they have no gatekeeping interest whatsoever. I mean, we both talked to Chris, the CEO of Rumble. He's not even that politically concerned. He just wants a cancel-free platform. And he knows that that's a way to also be successful. Cancel free platform. That's it. You voice whatever. I mean, when you had the senator from Florida, where Rumble has partially moved operations, Senator Scott, come out and attack Rumble for leaving RT on. They said, you better take RT down. And then the French government followed. And to both of them, they said, nope, not happening. We're still, we're not in the censorship business. That's not what we're doing. They've well, I helped write the rules, so I'm biased, but the rules that will be fully announced that are forthcoming, very good, best rules in big tech, period. Elon Musk and others could use them as a template for Twitter. So but it was great to see Crowder shout him out repeatedly. Apparently Daily Wire was feeling a little heat, so they actually appeared on, they did a Rumble live stream apparently today as well. But yeah, I mean, those that are attacking Crowder, I get it, like, attack him on some methods and some response. And Viva and I have a disagreement on, Viva would always be diplomatic in response. He would never be, he wouldn't be Crowder. That's not nice.
Some of us throw grenades.
Yeah, exactly. Viva not so much. And we have very different takes on the whole thing. And I think Viva's personality was like, this was too much by Crowder, but I think it was necessary by Crowder, because this is a severe problem that's been staying under the radar. I've heard complaints from other people involved in the business and dealing with the Daily Wire on specifically these issues. And it reflects a deeper problem, because are they basically co-opting and neutering Jordan Peterson? Are there certain topics he won't broach? Are there certain conversations he won't discuss? Same with Matt Walsh, same with Michael Knowles, same with Clavin, same with all of them, same with Candace Owens. But, probably maybe the worst PR response ever was still letting Candace Owens talk on Tim Pool. I would have instructed, do not talk about this. Please, God, do not talk about this. Yep. We don't need to see Queen Candace come out.
Yeah, no, it's they definitely should not have had her come out at all. Absolutely. And it's interesting because one name you mentioned in there, Jordan Peterson, I've been seeing a lot lately. Jordan Peterson's changed. Jordan Peterson has changed. He's going back on the things that made him great. He's going back on like his takes on internet anonymity and stuff like that are very, very strange coming from someone like Jordan Peterson. And you got to wonder how much of that is Daily Wire influence, because it seems like ever since signing with them, his opinions don't appear consistent with who he has been. Now, I don't know, maybe that's just perception, but now you've been outed, whether it's true or not. Now you've got a specter over Jordan Peterson, one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most important voices for men specifically who are not Maoists. Like that's, yeah. If you're to the right of outright communism, Jordan Peterson's an important voice for men, and now he just doesn't seem like it anymore. And you got to wonder what's going on. And now we have to wonder if Daily Wire has influence on that or not. Like, you need to mainstream yourself a little more, Jordan. We need to get you to be a little more palatable. We don't want you to be kicked off of any platforms. We don't want you to be thrown off of YouTube. And I know people talk about this a little bit because they're like, well, Crowder does that and everybody does that. They do the 1 hour and then they switch to like exclusive content or paywalled content. It's like, yeah, I mean, I do. I switched to Rumble after an hour, but it's not because my opinions are going to get more based during the Rumble thing. It's because I'm trying to bring people to the platform to build it. My opinions are pretty consistent both here and on Rumble. I've said all the gamer words over here that I would say on Rumble. It's all the same. I've been banned for the same opinions. And I don't, the big like topics like elections and COVID and stuff, I've said my pieces on them most of the time. I don't have any big worry about saying stuff about them on YouTube anymore. It just doesn't come up very often. So it's like, not all of us are censoring for big tech, but Daily Wire isn't only censoring for big tech. They're punishing creators. They're being the more devastating censorship arm. You get a strike on YouTube. Well, that's 7 days or whatever. You get a strike from Daily Wire. It's a minimum of 180 days if you read the term sheet, because it's 90 days if they can't resolve it. And then if they do resolve it after the 90th day, it's an additional 90 days from the resolution. Actually, it doesn't even say after the 90th day. It just says if they resolve it, it's for 90 days afterwards. So it could be any amount of time.
They even use language in the contract from this point forward that I guarantee you their lawyers, if they got into court, would say entitled them to enforce those penalties through the entire length and duration of the contract. And it wasn't tied to money. That was the other thing. It was like people get no, it's like it wasn't said if you lose sponsorships, if you lose advertising revenue, if you lose subscriptions. None of that was in there. This was simply, we're going to give big tech a cancel culture veto over your content and you ever getting paid. That's what that was. And people come to all these excuses and explanations. And the other thing is like the explanation of, well, it would be negotiated out. Don't put it in there to begin with then. If you don't expect it to be there in the end, don't put it in there from the get-go.
Yeah, it's not a commercial lease. You don't have to try and screw over some guy opening a Reiki healing center or something.
Yeah, precisely. And this whole adversarial approach is almost always a bad approach in contract negotiations with anybody you plan to be a partner with, because it's all about trust. If you don't have trust, that piece of paper ain't worth much anyway. That's just for getting into court. If you don't have trust, it's going to break down no matter what. But I think they should regret burning. But what this scares me with, it's like if they thought they could get away with this with Crowder, then did they get away with it with Jordan Peterson? Did they get away with it with Candace Owens? Because they've come out and said, "Don't worry, we negotiated for five months."
But I guarantee they got rid of it they got away with it with Candace Owens. Her reaction tells me everything I need to know. And she gave it away. She's like, $50 million or whatever. Like the look on her face when she talked about that $50 million, she goes, I need to renegotiate my contract. That was one of those jokes. Like, oh God, there was so much more money on the table than I ever thought. You got to wonder what she's making. I don't know. Her show doesn't look like it makes any money to me, but I'm crazy.
Apparently on Facebook, according to her lawsuit, she was making huge money coming in.
Okay, yeah, on Facebook, I believe it. On YouTube, she doesn't make hardly anything at all.
No. And it was always interesting. It's like it was very selective promotion. You know, in terms of where she was successful and the rest. I liked it when she spoke out on common cause issues, but she'd always been nasty dealing with people. I mean, that was clearly a vulnerability for her. It's another reason why Daily Wire shouldn't have rolled her out for that. And no one's going to convince me that was everybody was too much on script. Bots were on script. Randos that were talking to me. You don't understand what a term sheet is, Mr. Barnes. I was like, okay. I mean, like every little talking point. I was like, come on. Like people with like 6 followers. It was like you with. Yeah, like the Ukrainian war, when I was critical of the war, I'd get these people that just opened an account a week ago and they had 2 followers and they're suddenly motivated to attack anybody questioning the war. It's like, okay, we kind of know. I mean, the CIA's got to work a little harder for that sort of thing.
It's kind of funny that that the attack dog you pick, right, just falls right into the narrative. Like, well, no one will go after the black woman. It's like, come on, guys. Like
exactly. It's how those kind of conservatives think. It always reminds me of George W. Bush bragging about dragging Condoleezza Rice around to all his foreign meetings. Like, man, they're always shocked. Man, I bring in the black girl. Look at that, everybody. Republicans got one too. Especially, I mean, if you want a dumb judge, have a judge. This will probably get me in trouble down the road. But if you want a dumb judge, terrible judge, have him be a minority appointee of a Republican president. They're almost universally terrible. Just they're usually mean. They're usually mean and dumb. They're usually both. That is like, especially W's. Man, they were awful. I've had a couple of those. They threatened to put me in jail a couple of times, but that's another story. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was but credit to Crowder, because he took a huge risk. Like he was pointing out tonight, look, if money was my motivation, I take the deal or I keep my mouth shut. I know coming out with this, I'm going to get attacked from every which way by a billionaire company with a lot of power, with a lot of big voices. I knew that. I did it anyway because I cared more about the conservative cause. I mean, he wants to retire in 5 years. I suspected this because, like, with the heart issues he had, those are serious heart issues. Yeah. I was like, he probably wants to step back, wants to be in the producer role, which is almost everybody in Hollywood wants to go from talent to producer. But he wants to go to producer role. He wants another bunch of young Steven Crowders coming up. And he's like, if this is the model, there will be no more young Steven Crowders.
Nope. No, if they're going to scoop up the talent, control them, and funnel them into conservative ink, then there won't be. That was always the thing with Crowder, that I liked about him. He was always a wild card. And that meant that a lot of times, like, he would do a skit or whatever, and I was like, this is dumb. I don't like this. This isn't my thing or whatever, but it didn't matter. One of my main memories, he did a gun debate with someone, and he was an absolute asshole to the person in the debate, to the point where it was like, I agree with you on guns, and this is distasteful. Like, this doesn't feel right. You're being very personal. The other person was not. And they were like, dude, Steven, we're actually friends. Why are you doing this the whole time? And he even apologized for that interview later, because that debate went so poorly and it looked bad for him. But that's the thing. Steven Crowder is he's himself, unapologetically, unabashedly. And when he's up lecturing these college students and telling them how stupid they are for very good reasons, like, that's when he was at his best. And Shapiro kind of does that, but not in the way that Crowder does. It's not funny when Shapiro does it. It's analytical and very official, and it's at 10 times the speed of a normal person talking. And I'm going to tell you about my wife, and she's a doctor. Have you heard she's a doctor? Like, he's going to do that over and over. And Crowder's going to get up there and be funny and real and honest. And you never get the idea that he's like, and maybe this is a good acting job, I don't know, it doesn't matter to me, but you never get the idea that he's being insincere.
Oh, no, he's clearly authentic. I mean, he kept standing by Alex Jones through the heat. He would put Jones on over and over and over again, to his credit. Whereas I don't think Alex Jones maybe once or ever has ever been on the Daily Wire. They've been one of the biggest anti-Jones networks out there. And so when I was watching him in that capacity, because I was never like a huge fan, but I was watching him in that capacity, I was like, okay, this guy's a stand-up guy that has a certain independent streak that just respects somebody else for being authentic. And Jones had been telling him that this was coming. Jones been public about this now. So Jones told him, look at my model. Try to emulate that or find something equal. Don't be dependent on billionaire sugar daddies. Don't be dependent on corporate advertisers. Don't be dependent on these big media companies. Go out there and be independent. And Crowder was like, I don't want to market a lot of stuff. I don't want to directly market. And he was like, well, you could do gun stuff. You could do supplement. There's a range of stuff you could do. And then tells him about Alex Jones. He's sitting there trying to convince Steven Crowder to do things that would compete with Alex Jones. He's like, directly, but he doesn't care, because Jones was like, I want another Steven Crowder to be successful. I want this model to be out there. I want us to break the system. I want us to take down the globalists.
The Randian conservative, right? Like the Randian capitalist who says, I will compete by just being better. And when someone does it better than me, hats off to them. And that's motivation for me to work harder.
Absolutely.
What happened to that?
It's this corporate co-option combined with a culture that's made everybody weak. They're either simps or they're soy boys. They're just weak. It was like I was walking around Brooklyn. I was in New York early this summer, and I thought that kind of soy boy stuff was a little exaggerated. It's not exaggerated. Everybody there was a soy boy. It's like, come on, you can go to the gym at least once. It's okay to have arms as a man. It's unbelievable. It's
wait, I'm feeling personally attacked.
It was just unbelievable. But I think the culture has really corroded it. Jones is the ultimate old school, masculine, in their face, do your own business, stand up for you are, be authentic, take the hits, keep going. And Crowder, I think more and more he realized he was more like Jones than he was like institutional conservatism, but thought he could bridge the two. He thought, hey, these guys have been friendly with me. They share the common cause. Surely they'll do this. I think he probably shocked him that it was to him. He's like, if you're doing this to me, then you're definitely screwing over every other little content creator. They're just getting railroaded. And the other things that people say, well, you could go work for them and then you build up your own brand. Not if your brand has been muted by the time you're at Daily Wire. You don't get to develop an authentic, independent brand. Look at it's like the Fox effect. Other than Tucker and Glenn Beck, ultimately, for the most part, does anybody care what Bill O'Reilly thinks? These were Fox News creations who, because they stayed within the Fox News Overton window, when they left, nobody cared. They didn't have a big monetization brand.
Look at Megyn Kelly. Like, here, what do we got? I probably make myself look stupid doing this, but I don't think so. So let's Megyn Kelly on YouTube. Megyn Kelly is huge. 730K subscribers. Whoa, Jesus, I don't want to hear you. Sorry. So Megyn Kelly has 730,000 subscribers on YouTube, which, by the way, going from a nightly viewership of what, like 3-4 million views a night. Let's look at her videos here. We got 7 hours ago, 18,000. That's nice. 4,300, 4,000, 200K, 53K, 24K, 2.8K. Viva, 49K.
Ah, see, Viva brought in the business.
Yeah, 73K, 153K. But here's the look at, I mean, this is 700,000 subscribers and someone who had millions of nightly viewers, a huge name on Fox News. Brands within media organizations aren't brands that succeed afterwards because the media organization is pumping the brand. Look at any CNN personality on Twitter, 2 million, 3 million followers. Their engagement is lower than like second week bots get.
Look at Chris Cuomo. He went from 1 million a night to maybe getting 30,000 views on his YouTube channel. These are, so that's where it was a misrepresentation what Jeremy was saying for the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Because really what they're doing is they're neutering people. There was a cool meme that had a picture of, well, they love putting the picture of Shapiro next to Peterson just because, Shapiro's little. The midget wire is what I occasionally call it. But the sign behind it said, "Welcome to the spray neuter clinic." And it's very apt and very appropriate because that's effectively what the Daily Wire is doing. It was just the cojones to try to do that to Steven Crowder. Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, we're at an hour. I need to read YouTube super chats, and then we need to move over to Rumble.
All right.
And I know there's at least a couple in there that have questions for you. Let me get this pulled up here. That's what she said. Okay, the first one. Where are we? Okay, we'll go grab those in a second. Unix EDU, you send me an offensive offer, I go honey badger on you. Yeah, and that's the problem with negotiations. The type of offensive offers that you send are when you are the desirable commodity. You have the retail space, for example, in a mall. You own a mall and it's very desirable. In 1996 is very desirable retail space. So they have to come to your shitty contract and they have to work it out because there's another store that wants in that retail space. That's when you get to have a very offensive contract. And you're not building a long-term relationship with these people. They're literally, you're one of those self-serve frozen yogurt places. They're going to come in there, get out their frozen yogurt, eat one, and you hope they come back tomorrow. But if they don't, someone else is coming in, so you don't care.
Rockefeller contracts.
Yeah, exactly. 200 Watt Studio says, Barnes, what is with your partner Viva Fry? He's going hard in the paint right now that Crowder proved what a hypocrite he was on Tim Pool tonight.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know why Viva interpreted it that way. I think he misunderstood what Crowder was saying. So I don't know if he only saw the clip and that was it, but he did. He misunderstood what Crowder was saying. I think as a general rule, Viva responded negatively to how Crowder responded because Viva wouldn't respond that way. He saw it as undiplomatic. The other big difference is Viva gives the benefit of the doubt to the Daily Wire that I don't give it to them. But yeah, obviously we disagree on this one.
Scott, how can you be friends?
Yeah, exactly.
Skyrim 96. The best breakdown of the contract so far is Night's Watch. That's Shadiversity's podcast.
Great. He did a 3-hour one and a 1-hour one. I saw him talking on Friday Night Tights. All hail Friday Night Tights earlier this week.
Friday Night Tights is great. Big shout out to Shadiversity. Really smart guy. Really cool guy as well. I'm really glad. I've been getting to know him a little bit, and I look forward to doing some more stuff with him because he's awesome. Unix EDO says, Barnes, Shapiro still thinks Lewandowski body slammed Michelle Fields. He left Breitbart over it.
Yeah. And you talk about betraying friends. Go back to see how he behaved towards a range of people at Breitbart. Let's just say it wasn't exactly friendly.
Which is crazy. So in the abstract, the legal argument about Lewandowski is there was a simple battery involved. A simple battery is not the same as a criminal battery.
No.
A simple battery is a tort And the problem with Michelle Field's simple battery claim was always that, what damage did you suffer?
Yeah. And not only that,
you get a nominal $1 award.
security. You
Right.
know, if you breach security, the security guard, no, maybe they won't go like full Dave Chappelle security guards on you and like body slam you and do all the rest.
That guy got torched.
But yeah, exactly. But you know, if you breach the security line, which is what she did, security's going to respond.
Right. And that may be an implied assumption of the risk.
Yeah,
that
that's exactly what that is.
limit
her body slam me.
But even
so
if
I can
she
get famous for being a loser. Does anybody remember? Does anybody know Michelle Fields today? I mean, she was a joke.
No, but even if she could win her case, her provable recovery is a nominal fee of $1, $10, something like that at best. It was not, but so it's like a law school question where, oh, the results don't actually matter on this. But yeah, Ben went crazy on that. It's like, oh, you should prosecute. It's like, no one's going to prosecute you for grabbing someone's wrist. They'll prosecute you if you break it, or, if he pulled on her and she like turned a heel and busted an ankle or something like that. But you're going to have some bodily injury. M. Hamma, Crowder said, change my mind segments cost $50K to make. They wanted to pay $65K per episode. Dimwits. Yeah, well, to be kind of fair to Daily Wire, and I hate doing this right now, but I think they changed my mind were either annual or quarterly videos. So those did have a different pay scale and a different penalty attached to them, $250K and $1 million for the quarterly and the yearly respectively. So, but yeah, I mean, costing $50K to make does not surprise me at all. You got to fly production staff out there and equipment. You got to set up the equipment, record all day to hopefully get a couple interactions. You got a ton of editing that goes into it.
And people can look up public information about, say, the Tonight Show or these kind of episodic shows. Crowder has a comparable expense budget. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do the math on that, you realize that's why this contract basically was, please either shut your mouth and play ball with big tech, or pay us money for 6 years for the privilege of owning all of you.
And if you go to any of the, like, I broadcast from my house, it's not a big deal. I have a studio, but my studio isn't cheap. To like all of the equipment I have is thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's very basic. You go to like Blaze or you go to Crowder's studio, and you're gonna see like even Tim Pool's studio. The setup that they have is extremely expensive. Very high level or very high end cameras, and they have several of them. They have to have a thing that can bring all of those cameras into the same feeds. You have to have interfaces for all the microphones. You have to have nice studio headphones for everything. They've got Shure SM. They've got your microphone on every single station, and there's like 9 of them sitting there just in case they have a huge panel discussion. These things cost a ton of money. Plus, you have to have staff to produce this stuff. You're not sitting there with a switchboard, like doing the show like I am with 9 different people and switching camera angles the whole time. It gets really expensive really fast because you need professional people with good qualifications to do it. And even if you hire some dummy and train them, then they're worth money that you have to spend to keep them later. This stuff all costs a ton to make. Unix EDU says Daily Wire is Black Rifle, fake leechers.
By the way, I love the Crowder shot on Black Rifle Coffee tonight. He was like, can you imagine me being stuck doing a bunch of a script for like Black Rifle effing coffee? I was like, God, this is the best Crowder. I love this for Crowder.
I heard Black Rifle was trying to make amends with Kyle at SHOT Show in Vegas.
Yes, and apparently they were. And you talked to Kyle tomorrow, right?
Yep, tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Central.
It's fantastic. I talked to him recently. He acknowledged that, to his credit, he was like, everything I'd said before was accurate about certain people that were trying to, in my view, interfere and control his life. And he's gotten free from those people, which is great to see. Sweet kid, lovely mother, sweet family. I never got paid a dime, never asked for a dime for all the work that I did for him, because he's a good kid. He deserved to be acquitted. That was a case like Megyn Kelly. A bunch of people wanted me to be live during the verdict. I was like, no way. I can't. I mean, it was weird. I was so emotionally attached to the case, but I was. I was like, I can't do this live. I got to watch this myself. So if I'm partying, I'm partying. If I'm enraged, I'm enraged. But I can't, I couldn't do it live. But sweetheart of a kid. So that'll be great to see tomorrow. But yeah, hope they're trying to bridge gaps because it did them a lot of damage. I had a great fun conversation with Alex Jones on that during the peak of it. Somebody made it into a cartoon. I think it's like Info Tunes. They did like an Info Tunes version, which was great because at the end of it, the Jones like, yeah, they're such a pussy. And he's like, why am I calling him a pussy? I love pussy. I don't have anything against pussy. I have so much fun. It's like classic Alex Jones. It was funny as the dickens.
Let's see. Hey, Nick. Stephen Frost says, hey, Nick, how fast would you have sent Daily Wire a video of using their term sheet as toilet paper? Oh, I would have done, honestly, look, I would have done one of my responses. There are signals people give you that they don't want to work with you. And that's pretty clear. People may know, like I was semi-public about my negotiations with Rumble, not what was being said, but that we were in negotiations, that at one point negotiations seemed to have gone one way, and then we had different ideas about what was actually worked out, and we had to take a step back from everything. But the one thing I never doubted was that Rumble definitely wanted to work with me. That contract from Daily Wire says, we don't want to work with you. We'll reluctantly accept you into our place. And so that would have probably gotten one of my classic responses, full of profanity and unprofessionalism, because that's what they gave. They gave unprofessionalism. Return.
How do you think Daily Wire would have counterattacked? They would have said, it's known fact that Nick Riccado likes Fudo with no balls.
Yeah. And nothing could have been better for my channel than the Daily Wire to go after it. Right? Like that's the thing. That's what they need to understand real quick, because I don't think they do, because they seem to be wearing their big boy bralettes or whatever that they're doing. But if they did this, like Brett Cooper keeps getting brought up because she's like the newest talent there, and she didn't have a huge subscriber base, and they boosted her up to 1 million subs or whatever. If they had proposed this shit to someone like Brett Cooper, and they had a good lawyer who said, this is garbage, they hate you, they don't want to work with you, they want to own you and control you, and that person decides to come out and torch them, and they punch down from 5 million subscriber Ben Shapiro to 200,000 subscriber next talent, they're going to get demolished by social media. Like, and I don't know that they're playing the big media game, and they're big media, but they're straddling this social media line, and they'll get in a lot of trouble if they don't figure this response shit out really quick. You can't do that. You can't punch down unless you are 100% in the right and you do it in the best way possible. And they don't seem to have that skill set right now. Mitch Rapp says it's the same shit. Wait, Mitch Rapp, isn't that that's a book character, right? Mitch Rapp, isn't he? God, who's the guy who wrote those books? Guy who's like dying, and he wrote those political thrillers. Anyway, I don't remember. Mitch Rapp says it's the same shit we've seen with Taylor Swift. Look how long it took her to get control of her own property back. Yeah.
And I represented musicians that had their music stolen for decades because they were given contracts just like this that looked good up front, that actually gutted them in the back. And it's just, why did they think Crowder would go along with this? That's the gall that they had.
Vince Flynn is the author, by the way. Thank you, guys. I knew I had heard that. Glenn Beck used to like talk about him all the time or bring him on, something like that. But no, I helped a guy out with a music contract one time, like a nobody guy. And it was like a no-name production label, like an online production label. And he asked if I could review his contract. And I said, sure. I reviewed the contract and I looked at it and I was like, you realize you get jack and shit out of this. Like, they get to own your music. They get to remix your music. They get to produce your music. They get to do whatever. This is probably going to go into a repository where other people can use your music. You don't have rights to even use your own music to make derivative music out of it. You're giving them everything. And he's like, yeah, man. But and I think the payout was something like $700 for a song. And he's like, yeah, man, but this is my shot. I'm like, this isn't your shot.
No.
He took the contract though.
Yep. And usually those guys end up very bitter. I mean, when you run into the people that, like, I was representing potential class action against Haim Saban for how he was able to steal a bunch of royalties for people, the way he structured a bunch of contracts, and some of these people were big names, and that they've been robbed forever. I mean, I represented big Hollywood actors, other people in the entertainment industry who were getting scammed. Hollywood accounting is infamous for how it screws people over. I mean, remember Forrest Gump lost money according to Hollywood, right? So why do they do that? Because people had bad contracts that they thought they were getting royalties percentage that they really weren't. It was after our accountants are done with it, that's the net you get. Turns out even on Forrest Gump, you get nothing.
Yeah, yeah. The media contracts are notoriously predatory, and again, they don't have to be. They can be collaborative, and there's so much money on social media. It's unreal. People, what do you think? Do you think social media is a bubble? I don't think it's a bubble. I think it will develop into a bubble, but right now I think we're not even close to where it will get.
Well, I think the desire for independent content is only going to continue to rise. And so wherever that is, whatever platform or mechanism or means of delivery there is, people will search it out, seek it, and find it. And that's not going anywhere. The fight we have to have is all the gatekeepers that are going to come in and try to corrupt it, corral it, contain it, chain it. That's got to be our fight. You know, like a certain legal commentator, for example, that try to come in and corrupt aspects of things. So the not to put legal bites under any bus or anything, but he
names them. He names them.
Exactly. Well, yeah, as soon as I found out the military husband kid, I was like, okay, I got to keep a special eye on this one. Because this is what's going to happen. This is why Jones pays attention. Like, what Jones is, and people have come out and publicly said, I mean, I've worked with Jones. I did a little TV show for him for a little while. Jones's contract is basically nothing. He's like, go say whatever you want, do this. He'll overpay people all the time. He'll overcompensate all the time because he cares more about the message than he does about the money. It doesn't mean he wants to be broke the rest of his life, but he's willing to sacrifice one for the other. And Crowder's of the same spirit, the same soul. And we need more of that, not less, because people want this. People want independent, authentic voices that speak their mind. You can disagree with them. You can have different opinions. That's all fine. But they want to know, hey, that's your honest opinion, not a captured opinion.
Right. And that's one thing I really like about Jones. I mean, whatever you guys out there think about his takes and his opinions, perfectly fine. Doesn't matter to me. I disagree with a ton of shit he says, or I just don't believe a ton of shit he says. I love the guy, though. And here's why. He's a visionary, and visionary creators, what they do is this is the difference between a Daily Wire and a visionary creator. Daily Wire will do the stupid thing. They look at the pie and they go, how do we slice this pie? And the visionary creator goes, how do I build a bakery and make a whole shitload of pies? And how do I keep giving pies out to different people? And that's the whole thing. And with social media, the quicker you learn that you have two options, especially with brands and multi-channel networks, and everybody who signed up for these like Machinima and those really predatory multi-channel networks in the past found out real quick that the network is profitable, but the network is a pipeline, and there's only so much flow that can go through a pipe. Whereas if you are just empowering creators, you have the entire world at your fingertips. I was talking to someone about this stuff just today. What was today or yesterday? I can't remember now. But I was talking to him about it, and I was like, the difference is realizing that there's 8 billion other people, and almost no one has an audience that even dents 8 billion. Like, you go to the highest audiences on the planet, you got like PewDiePie or Mr. Beast or whatever, and you get into the hundreds of millions, and you're still small percentages of 8 billion. Most of us aren't even ever going to be close to that. And there's a ton of money to be made. There's a ton of influence to share. There's a ton of this stuff because the audience it's limitless. It's like the Stephen King book, Insomnia. I don't know if you ever read that or if the audience has, but this guy would, in his like this weird sleep state, he could suck the life force out of people through this weird motion he would do. Like, basically look like a funnel with his hand. He would suck a little bit of their life force. and he's asking these little alien things. I don't know. Stephen King's a fucking weirdo. He's asking them about, like, am I harming them? And they couldn't communicate with words. They just give him an image, and it was an ocean and a bucket. And they're like, you're taking nothing from them. It's a mosquito bite. And that's what social media is. We're all these little mosquitoes, but the reservoir of blood is so much bigger than anything we could imagine. And Daily Wire doesn't want to look at it that way. They look at it as this conservative pipeline. We are this brand and we'll do this. Alex Jones says there's a whole bunch of people out here who could see our message.
Exactly. I mean, basically, they looked, to extend the pie analogy, they looked at Steven Crowder as a pie, and they treated him like that character in the movie American Pie.
Yep. Oh, no. Oh, no. Steven, watch out. Cuddle Muffin says, I found you when looking for Robert Gouveia after his interview with Viva and Barnes. When looking for him, and found you singing along with Pump and Munch protest. I was like, who is this donkey? I like him, and stayed. Good. That was good times. God, I still need to visit the Pump and Munch. That was during that when not Minneapolis, but Brooklyn Center, one of the suburbs, was on fire after the Kim Potter shooting.
Yep.
Our buildings don't have life insurance. Our buildings have life insurance. Our people don't have life insurance. No, it's the opposite, sweetie. James Garter, Barnes is up to his tits in cool. Take a drink, the both of you. No words needed. You're doing God's weird work. Have too much fun, buddy. Hey, thank you, James. Speaking of having fun, I told you I'm coming out to Vegas. I hope we can grab like a bite to eat or a cigar or something, man.
Oh, definitely. I'm thinking about doing a first Viva Barnes meetup, maybe in Vegas. Maybe even do a live show or something, or see about that. But so maybe we could overlap that. That could be fun too.
So my live show, I'm getting we're gonna get my live meetup, whatever it ends up being, is gonna be on the 26th of February. You, Viva, whoever is welcome to come, whether we do like a collab show, or if you guys want to just come out and hang out and like look at it and see like what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but we're gonna get together with a bunch of people. We're gonna have a bunch of liquor, and we're gonna have some fun, and we'll probably do whatever creators are there are going to be welcome to come up on the stage, and we'll hang out and talk a little bit. And then mostly it's going to be socialize, like hang out with people, meet these audiences that love to hang out and chat with us. So,
oh, absolutely.
I'll give you more details specifically. And if you guys want to come out to that and partner on it sounds like really official. If you guys want to just come out and hang out with us, it would be great. And I would love it.
I think
very,
it'd be
very
a lot
much.
of fun. It was when the Geeks and Gamers crew and Nerderotic were out here. Got to hang out with the whole crew. Fun crowd, fun people.
Yep.
Always fun. People like to meet people in person, and I think it always has a real value to it. And I know some good places in Vegas, so we can definitely have some fun.
Absolutely. Mostly Gluten says, please get Dave Smith. He's running for president 2024 to talk about Crowder versus Daily Wire. He was for Daily Wire. Please talk to him please talk him to normal.
That's the only problem with like libertarian political people. I love Dave Smith. I think does a lot of great work. If he needs lawyers to help him in 2024, I'll be happy to do so. Just like Brett Weinstein, Green Party, Peace and Freedom Party, Libertarian Party, everybody else I've represented over the years, Ralph Nader, Jill Stein, you name it. But the thing with liberty, they always tend to be so corporatist. They never see anything wrong in anything a corporation does, and that's the only place where I'm like, these state chartered liability immunity companies. It's like that. There's a boundary. I think there's a balance to be driven there. That's because I come from a more populist perspective, admittedly, but it's where they just it's like a corporation can never do any wrong, and it's one area where I don't.
They
agree.
Clearly can, and we're seeing it. My thing with corporations and libertarianism in general, because I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Libertarian Party member because they end up so often like the party ends up being retarded. I know the Mises Caucus took over and they're promising a bunch of big changes. I would love to see them. That'll be great.
And that's great that Dave Smith is part of that. But like, it wasn't a surprise. They were so deferential to authority, the political hierarchy, that, even I helped get him on the ballot and some other things, but in Virginia and other places, during 2020, but their leader of their party was celebrating all the craziness with COVID. And it's like, this is not libertarian.
It's the opposite. And that's the problem is like, oh, the corporation is kind of like, it's this manifestation of free will or whatever, except right now we don't have a libertarian society that has built libertarian corporations. We have a pseudo-capitalist state-controlled society that has built state accepting corporations and state profiting corporations. Internet companies are all built off of state dollars. If they didn't have eminent domain, you wouldn't have internet cables running through your yard, and you wouldn't have internet at your house unless you paid for it individually. That's the libertarian society no one wants to talk about, is that all of this stuff that we like gets really difficult in pure anarchy or in pure libertarianism. And we're not there, and we can't unwind to that. So like, libertarians need to take a step back from that ultra libertarian perspective, because that will not exist in this world as we know it. We now have to look at this as, this was built in this way. How do we incorporate libertarianism into the reality of society? And that's why I don't tend to be like a libertarian voter. It's because it's impractical.
Yeah.
We're talking like 60 and 80 year timelines for stuff to even start to change in that way. But anyway, Joel Tauchen with a huge super chat. And by the way, Mitch Rapp had a huge super chat. Thank you so much for both of those. Joel says, this message is for both of you. Do you honestly believe Jordan Peterson is neutered with his contract with the Daily Wire? Have you seen his daughter's response? If so, and you don't believe her, what justification do you have other than mere speculation? Okay, let me clarify my position. I have no idea if he's neutered or not. What I do know is the Crowder's revelation of the contract casts a specter on everyone within the Daily Wire. And we have to ask the question of whether or not they are controlled on their social media, or they are. And even if they're not controlled, if they're influenced, like if Jeremy Boring calls up Jordan Peterson, even though he's not in control of his accounts, he says, hey, Jordan, you know, that's our contract. And really, like, we started with a similar term sheet with you. Don't you remember? And, you know, we kind of worked that out. And we got a really good deal going. Does Jordan Peterson then say, oh yeah, you know, you guys have been really nice to me. I love the guaranteed paycheck you got there. And it's really good. I'm sorry. I'll take the tweet down. Like, you have to wonder if that's going on. We don't know now because of the specter that Steven Crowder has passed. Maybe Jordan Peterson's lawyers came in with like, nope. Screw this. You don't get any control over anything. Jordan Peterson is one of the most valuable assets you'll ever have. And you don't get to exploit him in this way. We don't know. And so now we have to, every action he takes has to be lensed through that. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, because two things. One is, you know, I know people who try to negotiate with the Daily Wire. So I know that this applies even in context. You'd be shocked that it applied. Again, the fact they try to do it to Steven Crowder should scream warning sign, and refuse to change any of it when he asked them to. Should scream, you know, alarm signals to everybody. The second is the way everybody has responded has enhanced my suspicion. I was like, if you're truly an independent actor and you don't have any of this stuff in your contract, why are you getting involved in the Steven Crowder Daily Wire dispute? Why are you deleting tweets? Why is your daughter out there doing a defensive video? These are not the things you do if you don't have any worries whatsoever in your own contract, in my opinion. They have reacted like everybody's on the corporate, calls them up, here's what everybody's talking points, and they all say the same things. They all repeat the same talking points in general. This is why the reaction has increased my suspicion, not decreased it.
Yeah, you'd think one of them would come out and say, yeah, you know what? Not the best look on that term sheet.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if I was a board member and I really cared about money making at Daily Wire, I would have fired Jeremy Boring immediately. I would have said, you just cost us $10 million in lost subs, you nitwit. You blew in $100 million profit opportunity, and you're out there making it worse. I would have shit canned him to the side. You know,
the real question is how many Daily Wire Plus subscribers they're losing over this.
My guess is, I don't think there's like a massive Crowder Daily Wire overlap, but I would say at least a 10% share. And you do that math, that's 100,000 subscribers. That's $1 million a month. That's 12 million this year. That's implied value probably around 30 to 40 million. So
that's Crowder's contract.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they cost him when they could have just kept their mouth shut.
Yep. They could have just let it be speculative. They would have lost a couple. Sure. People would have gone, oh, it's Daily Wire. Oh, it's Daily Wire. And then if Crowder ever came out and if Crowder just outed it, he's like, it's Daily Wire, blah, 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 blah. Then, then they go, hey, whoa.
Well, then you have to respond, and I understand that. But when he didn't, that was a window to shut. I was watching all the speculation, and it was about half Daily Wire, half other people. They were saying Rumble, the Epoch Times, maybe it was Blaze, even though he said it wasn't Blaze. All these other network, they thought maybe it's Fox.
I wager Blaze has a very similar contract, honestly. Yeah, I know Crowder said it wasn't Blaze, but the implication that I got from Crowder is that it wasn't Blaze for him, and he mentioned that he worked with CRTV and was grandfathered in to a contract that pre-existed the Blaze. And I got the very clear impression that Blaze had a similar thing. And look, I have not, let me be very clear on this. Elijah Schaffer has never talked to me about his contract with the Blaze, but in my observations of who Elijah Schaffer is and how he addresses things, plus his NDA with the Blaze, plus a bunch of stuff, it kind of looked to me like Elijah Schaffer went off the Blaze reservation, and that was the big problem. And it's being touted as some nebulous HR issue.
Well, and Crowder made that clear tonight, and he didn't target the Blaze, but he just said this is commonplace throughout the industry. He said this is a common problem throughout the entire big conservative space. So he made it. He said definitely, and he specifically said it goes way beyond just the Daily Wire. And so which is, and he's been just keeping his mouth shut about it. And he's just like, screw it. I wanted to do one last contract so that could create a model that can create the next Steven Crowder. And all of Big Con doesn't allow that to happen.
And to finally answer your question, Joel, no, I don't listen to women. Why would I watch Michaela Peterson's response?
And I like Michaela and I like Jordan Peterson, but I have doubts about what their deal is. The reaction is just, again, only a stuck pig squeals this loud. They've been going crazy. They went ballistic. They're going to the wall. They're launching smear campaign after smear campaign, personal attack after personal attack. And I have, an old proxy for what I use to figure out who's likely telling the truth or not. And all the way the Daily Wire has responded is a sign that they're guilty as hell.
Yeah, it's crazy. They bungled this from day 2. To be fair, they didn't respond the first day. I'll give them credit on that. But Boring's response, I was like, this is not good. This is not a good thing. Tor's Truth says Daily Wire lost me. And then a wave. Hey, what's up, buddy? Let's see. We got Gregor Brzeziskowicz says, Nikki, thanks for the Cadillac recommendation. Holy fuck, I bit into the brisket sandwich, closed my eyes, and savored the moment. Their kielbasa game is legit. I approve. Thanks, man. Dude, if you're in Dallas, Cadillac's barbecue, they do a Wagyu brisket, and it is like eating beef butter. I don't know. I could eat a ton of brisket. I could barely eat what I ordered there, and I wouldn't want it the second day. But what you get, just order. I know this is going to sound like heresy. Just get like the half-pound brisket. It is so rich. It is so fatty and so delicious. It's really good, but it's hard to eat all of it, but it's so good. It's amazing. He also says, by the way, watch the pool show. Crowder keeps dropping hints like younger upcoming kid. Called them a kid even if they are 40, or $20 on Daily Wire or $5 on local. Coincident, gangster gang computer gone. Well, look, it's not me. It's not me. I may be 40. I don't think I look 20. But whatever he's talking about, it's not me. I don't think. He hasn't talked to me about it. But if it is me, Crowder, I'll be your Huckleberry. Flawed TV says, what's good, bruv? Hey, Flawed, what's up, brother? We got to get you on a show sometime real soon. Just you and me. Ooh, intimate. G-Men NC says, hey, Barnes, how do I get in touch with you? Hospital here in Raleigh used a cookie on their website written by Facebook for 4 years. I got a letter stating it sent my data to Facebook, and none of it was anonymized. It said it potentially included my list of medications as well.
Wow. So yeah, you can always reach me. Just go to Barnes Law LLP as in Peter.com. There's a contact page. That's always the best way because that goes to a whole bunch of people and it's organized and digitized. So that's the way you can always reach me.
Perfect. USSR Shopping Cart says Mark Dice is totally blind to deep state and aligned interests subverting Daily Wire contracts. He should know way better. Weird blind spot. Barnes, please take a minute and give Ricada the rundown that I can't do in a short chat like this about having on both of these great guests separately, the Duran and also America's Untold Stories. He doesn't know that he and Mark G would be gold together because he understandably has no time to watch any content. Let me just briefly say, I have been on a show with Mark and I like him a lot. I've been on with him and Eric Hunley, and people may miss this. I love Eric Hunley and I love doing his show. He invites me on all sorts of Fridays, like every other Friday. He throws me an invitation and he knows that I have an appointment. Fucking chiropractor. I have a chiropractor appointment with my whole family every Friday right during his show. And so I miss all of them. Eric Hunley still throws them to me. I love both of them. And Mark, I was on a show with him and he was really cool. And I think what they're doing is great. And I'm anytime, like if it's ever like, oh, we're going to cancel the chiropractor, I'm immediately going on Eric Hunley's show. That's the thing. It's just, I'm never home when they're recording and I hate that. Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and change it.
I can put you in touch with the Duran. They're overseas, so you have to figure out the time thing. But they do great geopolitical foreign policy analysis. That's been a lifesaver, say, over the last year. We've been getting so much fake news about what the heck's going on that they've been able to pierce through it and give great independent insight.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them, but I'll check them out. It would be great. Jackson Kai says Michaela Peterson admitted they did contact them about the tweet, but swears it was their decision. Oh, yeah. She also admitted the contract negotiations were 5 months of daily lawyer calls that upset her father and called them sharks. Sounds lovely. Also, so swears it was their decision, but think about it. Look at Crowder's term sheet. You got 4 years with Daily Wire, and at their sole discretion, they may renew you for another 2. Jordan Peterson's probably got a 4-year contract, and at their sole discretion, not an automatic renewal without like some affirmative rejection. At their sole discretion, they can renew him for 2 more years. Maybe it is your decision to delete the tweet, but is it?
Well, it was like when I interned at clerked at a corporate law firm, second year of law school, big one in Chicago. And they told us a bunch of things were voluntary. So I was like, okay, I'm going to skip that. That's boring. And then later they're like, why didn't you attend that? And I was like, I thought it was voluntary. And they're like, well, it just shows a lack of, you're not, as the Daily Wire said, not a team player. I was like, well, quit lying to people and call it voluntary.
My boss came and sat down at my desk at Wells Fargo when I worked there. And I'm a banker. I was making like 34 grand a year, just embarrassing money. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, she's like, why don't you go out to the bar with your coworkers after, like on, I think it was like Thursdays or something, they would go out, and it's like, why don't you go do that? And I was like, well, because I have a baby at home. Or wait, no, I didn't have a baby yet. Sorry. I was like, I have a wife and we're trying to have a baby at the time. Like, we're trying to get pregnant. We've had 3 miscarriages. I'm gone all the time. You put me in almost an hour away from my house when I was supposed to be 5 minutes away from my house. So like my time does not factor in going to the bar on Thursdays. I didn't drink at the time at all. Like, I don't drink. So I'd just be going to sit there, and I already get along with all of my coworkers. So why am I doing this? Well, it's just, you could be more of a team player. And I'm like, this isn't even a work activity. This is my coworkers getting together after work. And that voluntary nature thing in the corporate world
reminds me of The Office. In the movie The Office, not the show The Office, the Office Space, the movie Office Space. Yeah, I kind of need those by Wednesday. Yeah, I kind of need those. Can you get those reports? Yeah, it's that mindset that everybody hates. That's why I think also Daily Wire's out of touch. People hate dealing with corporate BS. That's another reason why that over time, Crowder wins this debate without any doubt. The Daily Wire can flood the space, try to create an impression that they're doing well. They're not over time because the ordinary person doesn't want to live in Brazil-style corporate America like the movie Brazil.
Right. Michael Shomo says, if Crowder pays for the production of Louder with Crowder and Daily Wire keeps in perpetuity only what they pay to produce, then would Crowder get the rights to all episodes at the end of the term? No, see, that's what you're missing. Jeremy Boring said it's what they pay to produce. That was a lie. Jeremy Boring glossed over the fact that the contract says that any shows produced under the contract in any media, even stuff that's not Louder with Crowder, and people may have missed this. If Louder with Crowder started a sub brand or some offshoot or side thing that was derivative of the Louder with Crowder production, Daily Wire presumptively owns it. Now you could go to court and try and say, no, this is an independent vocation that is separate from the Daily Wire contract. And you'd probably lose because they said that they have the exclusive rights to create derivative and subsidiary entities and shows and content and social media. So how like, let's say Crowder wanted to do a one-on-one Chowder with Crowder, the kind of like comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, where he goes around to different creators. They have clam chowder at the local place closest to them, and they talk about conservatism or whatever, like some gay segment like that. He wants to do that completely on his own, a completely separate show. Daily Wire bought through the contract the exclusive rights to create derivative content off of any of the Crowder material that was there. They would likely own that. They'd have a very good claim to own that under the term sheet that we saw, in my opinion. I don't know if you have a
no doubt. When I read that, that's exactly how I read it. I was stuck. I've seen entertainment contracts. That was some of the broadest language I'd ever seen. I mean, that was stunning when I looked at that.
Yeah, it was the whole thing was engineered towards them owning literally everything for 4 years, and then we'll give it back. I mean, great. Just way to stifle creation, by the way, because that's what that does. Crowder would have no motivation to do a Chowder with Crowder or a much better idea that he would come up with because Daily Wire would just own it. And that's one of those things that he wouldn't get back after 4 years because he didn't enter the contract with it. That's something the Daily Wire would own forever. And they'd either shelve it and prevent him from doing anything with it, or they would bring someone else in once he was gone.
Yeah, Robert... It disincentivized him.
Yep. Robert Butler, thank you for the donation. We got a couple more here. Chad Parsons, good logic could not answer this question. All merchandise in perpetuity. If your name is on the merchandise, do you still own your name?
Well, effectively not if it's commercialized.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. When I read the deal, I was like, this is nuts. This is nuts. This is nuts. This is nuts. Right. Like, I couldn't believe it. And it, confirmed certain suspicions I had, and that other people, again, that had negotiated a high level with Daily Wire had also confirmed to me. I was like, wow, I was still shocked they did it to Crowder. I could see them doing this to, other
to
talent.
Me, right? Like you do it
to me, Viva, any other people. But to do it to Crowder, especially, remember, Crowder, for those folks that don't know, has more than a decade connected to Hollywood work. He was a young actor when he was a kid. So he knows what BS contracts are in this precise content creation space. So that I think that's what every provision was designed almost to trigger rage.
Jared Codling says, latent gay. True. Speedy the Unsilent says, had my 30th birthday party last week and closing on my first house in a few weeks. New Year has been great so far. Awesome, Speedy. That is great. Poofy says, give him a break, people. He's late because his nose is so big he has to drag it behind him and somehow get through the doorway. Thank you, Poofy. Borquadamus says, this only happens to gentlemen with beards. Novatic says, let's go. Holy Sheep says, no Rumble stream. Boomer. Yes, I had that screwed up at the beginning. Very sorry about that. BD Tejas, welcome to Super Lawyer Status. Mario Carter 13 says, this past week has shown that Daily Wire needs someone that can explain the law. That's why we're proud to welcome our newest host, Legal Eagle. Oh, damn. JD Young says, let's all agree that Louder with Crowder is wrong about everything. Yeah, I'm with you. Daily Wire, give me $50 million. Potentially criminal. It was weird to see a CEO explain and elaborate on the terms of an entire contract like that instead of the legal department. Hopefully other parties keep their statements in mind should Daily Wire get sketchy. Like, what could they not get Ben off the Adderall to explain the contract? Like, what was going? You have a lawyer right there.
My favorite version. I think they did it. I think they were laughing about this tonight on Tim Pool. Apparently, one of the reasons for the quick cut at the end of the Ben Shapiro script is while he's doing his rage on on Crowder, he had to stop and read a script.
Oh,
and now
no.
let me tell you about the wonders of Birch Gold. That's classic. And I don't know if you saw that Tyler, I forget his name. The guy did a great Jordan Peterson imitation. Also did a great Ben Shapiro imitation. And what he did is like every 2 seconds, he stopped ranting on Crowder to read a script. It was perfect. He just nailed it.
Speaking of scripts, for those of you who are out there, birchgold.com/knows, while we're talking about the Jews, while we're talking about the golden contract of Daily Wire, you can check out birchgold.com/knows for how to protect your IRA or 401k by including physical gold and silver in your portfolio. They call it a loophole in the IRS code because they're not lawyers and they're weird, but it's really just a provision in the IRS code that you can hold these things if you do it in the appropriate way. And if you do it in the appropriate way, this can be a way to hedge against market volatility and inflation. I don't know if you've been watching the market. It is volatile. I don't know if you've been watching inflation porn or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. But inflation itself is running rampant under the rule of Joe Biden. And if you think Daily Wire sent me Daily Wire, if you think Birch Gold sent me this as a script, I got news for you. But anyway, if you watch under Joe Biden, we have undergone some of the most insane inflation you've ever seen. I bought eggs the other day. It was $6 for a dozen eggs, and I live by farms. I was like, oh my God. Like, you're lucky I want omelets, because otherwise I would just wait for my family members' chickens to produce and I would use their eggs, or I'd get guinea eggs or something. But inflation is off the charts. This is here to protect your investment in your retirement future from inflation. And that's a really important thing, because you work your whole stupid life to get just a little bit of a leg up on the end of it. So you can like retire to Florida and go, oh, I love me some Ron DeSantis or whatever. You can sprinkle guns on your chest or whatever you do. Not if inflation destroys the value of the assets you've built up. Gold and silver, remarkably resilient against those things. Look, Birch Gold is here just to get you the information. You make the decisions about your own investments once you are fully informed. Birchgold.com/knows. Thank you to them for sponsoring the show and letting me shit on their golden boy, Ben Shapiro.
I mean, it's always smart to have gold. There's never, it's never like a bad decision to have gold.
It's not. It's not. The question with gold is always, can I afford it?
That's absolutely.
That's it.
And if you can afford a little, you want that security. So you always better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it.
That's why I actually like when they approached me, I was like, wait, so you do the retirement gold thing? I think that's great because people have this pool of money, and it's hard for someone to go, well, I'm going to buy some gold bullion or whatever. It's like, oh, you got like $45,000 laying around to buy this bar that you're then going to shove in a safe and store. Well, in a retirement account, you actually do. You might have $45,000, $50,000, $100,000 as a portion of your overall retirement, depending on how long you've been working and building this thing up, where you could transfer some of that risky investment into gold and do yourself a good favor on hedging against inflation. So that's why I really like them as a company, because they do that. Also, they let me make Holocaust jokes from time to time during their ad reads. Which, how do you not like that company?
That was a great Crowder joke tonight. He goes, do you know how hard it is to make a Holocaust skit funny?
I watched this. Oh my gosh, I should probably save this for Rumble, but I watched a YouTube short of a comedian. He goes, all right, it's really hard to tell this joke as a white guy. And he's like, but slavery was a thing. And I know it's really bad or whatever. It was the worst, darkest part of America's history. But black people are so much better than white people at everything. Isn't it kind of neat that we pulled it off? It was like, oh my God. It was a brilliant skit.
I was at a party once, and this woman said, was sitting there talking. She was like, I went into a play, And then I realized it was a Holocaust play, and I was like, oh man, I know how this ends.
Westfield 90 says this man is 10,000% correct. Daily Wire just wants to sell razors, books, movies no one watches, but still makes them rich. Forget election outcomes. Ooh. Peter Gorumbe says the Daily Wire response feels like a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah, I think they were caught off guard.
Yeah. I think they are so accustomed to power. That's the other thing that kind of scared me about all of it. It was like, one, they tried to do this to Crowder. Wow. Second, they'd expected Crowder to go quietly into the good night when it didn't work out. And I was like, they're so accustomed to getting away with this. They don't expect anybody to say boo to them. And now they're coming at Crowder to send an example to everybody else. You better not say boo to us or we'll come after you with our full arsenal. And I was like, that makes me more suspicious of you guys, not less.
Yeah. And it's like, first, you're dumb revealing your hand on Crowder. You're dumb revealing your hand on Crowder because he's got the subscriber base and the also Crowder could tomorrow just retire. He could say, I'm done. I've got enough money. I've made plenty over my career. I'm done. And then do whatever he wants. He could open a sandwich shop. Again, he could open the greatest New England clam chowder chain that this country doesn't know that it needs. Because Crowder, I just want good chowder in my town. I live in a small town. Please normalize and homogenize the clam chowder industry and bring it to Spicer, Minnesota, so I could just eat some damn clam chowder.
Well, that was the other weird thing about the contract. It didn't require Crowder to be successful at all. It only punished him if it offended big tech. But he could just mail it in and start to be a boring, lame, uninteresting individual, and they were still going to pay him the same thing. That's why it felt much more like a censorship contract than a partnership contract.
Yep. And that's similar to what I was saying. It's like, this is not how you do this. There are all sorts of ways to incentivize him to make a ton of money, to bring a ton of Daily Wire subscribers. You want Crowder to be like, all right, guys, I'm partnered with Daily Wire. We're out here fighting the good fight. I need you to subscribe to Daily Wire Plus. We used to do Mug Club. The Blaze took, kept a hold of that, and they made that part of the Blaze. Look, we're doing Daily Wire Plus because we're out here. I love these guys. We're partners, and we are in this fight together. Of course, we are. You want Crowder wanting to do that every day because, and by the way, when you go there, use promo code Mug Club. Use promo code Crowder. Use whatever. Like, you want them to do that so that he's excited to sell those Daily Wire Plus subscriptions. Or even if you really want to be collaborative and also take a risk, you allow him to build his own subscription model that he'll walk away with, and Daily Wire just takes a big cut out of it, 80% for the first 4 years. And then after that, Crowder walks away with his subscription model after 4 years, and he gets to take the full amount. Or even Daily Wire keeps a 5% or 10% royalty in perpetuity on all existing subs or something like that. You can work that out.
Especially the networking, because there's a bunch of those people that come in to watch Crowder that then watch other people that stay around no matter what, even if Crowder isn't around. I mean, this is the amplifying effect of the network model. So, and that's why nothing in that contract was designed to be profitable. Everything in that contract was designed to control Crowder.
Exactly. Matthew Self, I'm convinced Barnes never actually puffs his cigar. Oh, wait, you're puffing it now, though.
I was puffing it right now, bro.
John Crump Live says, love the work. Hey, thank you. Nuclear Winter Gamer says, who is Joe? Joe is my man, Good Logic. I've heard something about his take on the Crowder thing, and I'm going to verify it before I address it, and I haven't done it yet. But I love Joe. And
hey, Joe, I believe in Jews for Jesus, so there's still time for conversion. You can get on the right side of this.
Rogue says Crowder ironically outed Daily Wire as most likely controlled opposition, full of Benedicts, Judas, uniparty types that want to keep the status quo. That was something that Beck had said a long time. Glenn Beck had said a long time ago. When he was pushing for Mitt Romney, I think it was. And Rush said the same thing during McCain, Obama, and they said, we'll make so much more money if Obama wins. We'll make so much more money. It'll be so much better. But they still advocated for their principles, both Beck at the time. And I know Beck's gone back and forth. I still ultimately think he's a positive, but he's got some.
I mean, it's like Rush Limbaugh. Started out real populist, Then Poppy Bush bought him off. You're just co-opted him. He's just Russian, a nice guy. He wasn't going to be disloyal to this powerful family that befriended him personally. And then, 2013 and 14, he returned to his core populist roots. What people don't know, and this gives you an idea for how the media works and what Crowder's outing. 2014, the Sean Hannity, Rupert Murdoch, a bunch of people went down to talk to Russian person. And they said, we want you on board with amnesty for immigration. It's going to be our new proposal. We're going to agree to a deal with Obama. We're going to push it through. Rush was so pissed, he started going ballistic on the Republicans in Congress soon thereafter. But the reason why they thought they could get that out of him is they'd seen the Bush effect of being able. But what they didn't understand is that wasn't corruption by Rush. That was somebody's personally befriended me. I'm not going to betray a personal friend. But when they tried to leverage him in this way, he's like, I got FU money times 10, brother. We're going to go to war. And that's really what Crowder did, is he outed this corruption, knowing it was going to come at great personal risk to himself.
KN/Kareem says, BS, Ricada, all contracts can be negotiated. Both parties look like shit. Actually, let me tell you very quickly, not all contracts can be negotiated. Very much. If the Young Turks wanted to hire me, for example, this would never happen. But if they were like, look, we want to expand into conservative space, Young Turks brand, we want to get you and boost you up and have you, the contract would not be negotiable. Like that would not be I would set the terms for what it would cost for them, and it would be astronomical, a price they would never pay. Not all contracts can be negotiated. That is not a true thing.
And here, kind of the myth that Daily Wire supporters created was that Crowder didn't try to negotiate. He's proven that was false. He came back and said, look, these terms are non-negotiable. We can negotiate on the money, but these terms of the cancel culture clause are not negotiable. Those are not acceptable. Come back with something else. And it was Daily Wire that said, no, those cancel culture clause provisions are non-negotiable. We're done. And wouldn't negotiate any further. It was the Daily Wire that stopped negotiation, not Crowder.
Lucas says, hashtag free quartering, hashtag free Brittany Venti, hashtag expose Eliza Blue. Yeah, the Eliza Blue thing, I don't know if you've been
that's disappointing. This. I mean, I helped promote her. We put her on sidebar early on when she wasn't that big. And the reason I didn't care about whether her past, any issues with her past. What I cared is she was doing great work trying to highlight that Twitter was putting, I guess we're still on YouTube, CP and other things, broadcasting, and it was outrageous what they were doing, and revenge porn and other stuff too. And she was highlighting it and hammering it away as well as anybody. And I wanted to promote that. And it ultimately worked, because now working with Elon Musk to get rid of that crap on Twitter, which is great work. Why weaponize that relationship now and endanger all the work she's done because she doesn't like that a rap video maybe did or didn't improperly license her video imagery? But either way, that's the rap video to take an issue with, not the quartering, not Brittany Venti. The way I put it today was, my advice to Eliza Blue is never go full Jack Murphy. And this is that's the approach she's taken, that over the top response, like you go back to Murphy. Murphy could have handled that way differently and it would have had a totally different outcome. Instead,
he would have answered the second question the way he answered the first question. Nothing would have happened.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so I'm really disappointed. I hope she changes direction. Now here's my concern. It appears she's connected to a law firm that may be giving her bad legal advice. Nothing about what the quartering did is illegal or grounds to sue. Nothing is grounds to sue Brittany Venti. But this law firm apparently is the same law firm representing alleged victims of Andrew Tate. And it's like, this starts to look like a money grab. It's like my favorite New York law firms, right? You walk in the front door of the personal injury firm, and then they lead to the back door to the chiropractor, right? They've got connected offices, shared offices. So I hope that's not what's going on, but very disappointing. And I really hope she reverses course and does so quickly.
Yeah, it's the funny thing is that, like, Eliza is likely not the owner of those. She's literally false DMCAing.
And people were mad at Cassandra Fairbanks for defending her. I've represented Cassandra Fairbanks in the past. She's been an actual victim of revenge porn, where it was very difficult to get those images removed. So that's where she's coming from. So I totally understand that perspective. But one, that isn't quite what this is. I mean, honestly, they're all flattering images. I mean, I get maybe not liking how they were produced, but they're all very flattering images. They're not unflattering images. But putting, and it's not like porn material really.
Yeah.
But maybe something happened in how it got produced. Take that up with the YouTube producer. Do what you can. If there's not much of what you can do with that, you definitely can't do anything to play. Don't go attacking quartering. Don't go attacking Brittany Ventney. Don't get them suspended. Don't weaponize your relationship. Don't blur the lines between trafficking and things you don't like. You know, I'm very disappointed that she's taken that path.
Yeah, you wrap it into your message. You say, look, I was exploited and the exploitation caused me damage and trauma. And that's why I did these things. I thought I wasn't worth anything other than my body. This is a common thing that sexual exploitation victims go through. It's on brand, it's on message, and say, you know, I really don't want these images out there because I think that it harms the message of sexual exploitation. But now that there's attention being brought to it, let me tell you why this is so dangerous and why this industry is so predatory towards young girls who have been damaged. And ask yourself a question. Why are all the girls who are having these images and having these this sort of message come out, why are all of them advocating against exploitation and abuse? It's because that abuse leads to further, more subtle legal exploitation, because it lowers self-esteem, because it does, like, just grift it, like, just do that and use it as part of the message. It's true, for one, and two, it's you start like taking down these other people, and you look really bad when you can say, hey, look, I know they're trying to use these images to, you can even say, I know they're trying to use these images to harm like the work I'm doing or whatever, but this is how this happens. This is why this happens. And we're seeing it all over on Instagram and OnlyFans. These people who are victims are then thinking that they're only worth their bodies. Like, get advice from anybody.
Well, also good lawyers, not lawyers who may be looking to line their pockets on the Andrew Tate case. And like people, I don't know Brittany Ventney, but I know the quartering. You could reach out personally to the quartering. Quartering has vouched for her in the past, supported her work in the past. You could tell her, hey, here's what happened. I'd really appreciate it if you didn't share that image, if you don't mind. It would have been no problem. This was all mishandled top to bottom. And I partially blame the law firm that may be wanting to monetize the Andrew Tate case.
It's why you always need to hesitate when you're getting a lawyer involved and realize that the lawyer needs to be your literal last option, because once the lawyer's in, it's nuclear. That's it. That's all we know how to do is maximum, because we have to zealously represent you to the maximum. I told so many people not to hire me because of that. I'm like, don't hire me, because if I do this, you're not going to get your issue resolved. You're going to start a fight.
Yeah, it's my approach. I always tell clients, if I'm a cost rather than investment, don't hire me, and lay it out. And I've had cases where you remove the monetary. I said, look, monetarily, you're going to spend this, and it's not going to improve the outcome of you getting that back. So unless you're doing it for personal other purposes, I recommend you don't use this strategy. You don't pay me a bunch of money, because it's not, I don't want to be an expense. I want to be an investment. I want to be a rate of return person. And you have to someone that has your good faith at heart. Someone that's compromised by wanting to cash in suing Andrew Tate is not someone you can trust in this space.
I'm not your buddy guy says, thank you, Barnes, for your views, but Viva facepalm tonight. Unix EDU says, since Rumble blocks my money, I bid you farewell. Yep, Rumble, that's one of the things that Rumble wants that it's one of those things they need to get worked out, is getting the monetization like actually locked down. And once they do, I mean, YouTube needs to watch out for Rumble in the best way, because Rumble is coming for them, and they're aggressive and they're great. I can't wait till they lock down monetization fully, because it's going to be a blast. James says, the quartering / Jeremy has contacts with Crowder. If yourself and Barnes are looking to speak with Crowder, then Jeremy should be able to arrange it or pass along a message. He said he could arrange for Nick. I've got contact with Crowder's team. I'm working it out with them. I've just had some my schedule's been a mess the past couple days, but definitely have contact with them, and I'll keep you guys posted once we get stuff going. And Hoot Hoot Owl says, stop speculation. You can't. I think this is our point. Once the Daily Wire, the way they handled this, allowed the specter to be cast all over them. And there is no end to the speculation. People will always do this. They've irreparably damaged their brand. No amount of talking from Daily Wire is going to undo someone going, I don't trust these guys anymore. That's done. Now they need to move past that person and they need to go pursue the next audience person to replace them, because that's done. That person may eventually come back, but it's not an intentional strategy that will bring them back. That's not how this works.
No.
Mario Carter 13, if you told me that Viva Fry asked the doctor when the stork was coming while his wife was giving birth, I'd believe you. Peckerwood says, I'm the one that did the Twitter poll on Viva's page. It's overwhelmingly in Crowder's favor. Picking sides only divides us. He's dying on that hill. Trucker Rob gives a foam finger. Thank you. Jesus Davila gives a thumbs up. I don't know where either of those are going, but I like both directions. Noah Name says, how does Robert put up with Viva? He's so annoying. Oh, Viva's great.
Viva's a sweetheart. Viva's great father, loves his kids, loves his wife. Like, if you bet Candace Owens out in the street, she's not going to be sociable or friendly. I've seen Queen Candace on display in DC. But Viva will shake your hands while he's, how you doing? Take a photo with you, interview you. You saw that with the trucker protest. So he's a sweetheart of a human being. He has a different perspective on this, but it's just a different perspective. I don't happen to share it. But he's a sweetheart of a human being, and he's awesome. He's the perfect straight guy. Like, I'm the bombastic guy that's probably always jeopardizing his channel and his economic future, saying stuff. But he's been tolerant of that all the way through. I mean, and this is a guy spent like a decade. He was doing karaoke songs, trying to build a YouTube channel. Finally builds it up, partners with me. And, I'm almost getting him banned every other week.
Tear it down.
He never said that. Usually he let it go. Interviewed Alex Jones. We're going to interview him again on Wednesday. So Viva's a sweetheart.
I love him. When I was down in Miami, he and his wife came down, had brunch with my wife and I. That's what married couples do. We have brunch together like weirdos. But it was great. They're both so awesome. And I had a fantastic time. I can't wait to get down again so I can visit. Rachel MR says it's past midnight, so happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, Rachel. Thank you, Nick, for doing an awesome job law-splaining for us. Hey, you're welcome. Gito 463, the talents don't have to be told explicitly what to or not to say for those terms to affect what and how they will talk about subjects on their own shows. Correct. Printer God says Daily Wire is acting like Elvis's manager. People are starting to see them as slimy, and that type of image is hard to come back from once branded. Mitch Rapp says, any chance you're going to cover the Alex Murdaugh case in South Carolina? Yes, I am. I'm just waiting for it to get out of jury selection. Voir dire is not being broadcast by video, only by audio. And the only thing I can think of worse than watching voir dire of juries is listening to it without watching it. So as soon as we're in opening arguments, I'm there, and I'll be covering that case since the Miller trial in Texas is not being broadcast.
That has to be one of the wildest cases ever.
The Murdaugh one, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's old South Carolina money. Basically, what I always say is it proves the thing I've been trying to say for years. Down deep, every prosecutor is a murderer. But
yes, I agree with this 100%.
But kill your wife, kill the kids, steal from your clients, steal from your law partners, fake your own murder, maybe
flex on judges,
maid, and then steal the money from the maid's family. I mean, it's like, whoa, this is like crime on a different level.
That was the thing I didn't realize. So the family has been Solicitor General of South Carolina for at least 85 years.
Yes.
And there was someone who's saying that family never loses a case. Never. And that speaks not to their skill as lawyers, because great lawyers lose cases. That's going to happen. That speaks to their influence and their political power and the fear that the judges have over them.
It all kind of started because his son got somebody killed. I mean, it's like, holy moly.
Yep. Serenity to Witches, welcome to Paralegal. Also, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate that. And look, by the way, if you guys can help me with this, Barnes, you and Viva, when I talked to locals back in November, I was like, you know what you guys need? You guys need gifting of memberships the way that YouTube and Twitch do it, not the way that you guys do it. You can gift memberships on locals individually if you know an email address or whatever. Then you need to be able to say, I'm just going to give 10 subs to the member list and have them be distributed. That's what locals needs to implement yesterday.
I agree. That's a great idea.
M4A now says Shapiro on that hot mic cutting a joke from the show because he was worried about getting boycotted was all I needed to hear to fully support Crowder.
You know what the joke was? It was just a joke about the word pansexual. I was like, that's what he was scared of going out. He was like, pansexual? What does that even mean? And so that was
means
the
I
joke.
have sex with a skillet?
Yeah, it was that kind of joke, right? And I was like, you got to be kidding. That's what you're scared of? It gave a sense of the degree of censorship.
That's crazy. So cautious. Robot Butler, we're almost done here with YouTube, and then we'll switch to Rumble. Jackson misrepresent what Makila said. Her dad tweeted video not knowing content, deleted to remain neutral. Daily Wire asked to keep it up, but was too late. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Serenity to Witches gifted 5 more subs. Thank you so much. Or 5 more memberships. Ginger Ninja, is it possible to send a DM in locals? It is if you are at on mine, $5 to join locals, $10 plus you can send a DM. I've heard it's possible, but I can't figure it out. P.S. Always love when Barnes joins the stream. It says Paul Barnes joins the stream.
Yeah, that's my evil twin, Paul. Because like I put out some picks at sportspicks.locals.com, football picks for football weekend. Had a great Saturday, nailed the Eagles games. And then my evil twin, Paul, recommended a bunch of picks on the Bills. That was all my evil twin, Paul. So we're going to hunt him down and execute him for that. Oh. But that all comes from Alan Dershowitz when I was debating Dershowitz on the vaccines. He kept calling me Paul. So it became a meme. My evil twin, Paul, did it.
I've talked with Alan about coming on the show or doing an interview either on mine or his or whatever. I don't care. And he said he's down for it. So that'll be interesting because like Dershowitz is the oldest of old schools.
Absolutely. He's the lawyer I have the most respect for in the entire country that's alive today. There's some dead ones that and some retired ones, I guess, with Jerry Spence and some others I have great respect for. Dershowitz's work as a lawyer has been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to him about the First Amendment because he's one of those few people who seems to hold to that First Amendment principle and has for a long time. I love Randazza on First Amendment stuff as well. I've actually, now it's out. He's made an appearance in my case. He's representing me in the Montegraph lawsuit. So
that's right. You're getting sued.
Yeah, I'm getting sued by look, Barnes, I try to tell people the ADA, when you know this because you and Viva have a pretty big show. When you get to a certain size on social media, the ADA enforcement arm assigns you a retard. And then you have to work to make sure that they can access the show. You have to make your links handicap accessible and all this stuff, all these ADA regulations. And Montegraph was my assigned retard, but he went off the reservation. I don't know what to do about it. And now I'm being sued. And it's like, I think I have a 1983 claim against the government because my government appointed moron is not working out the way I was told it would.
I guess they took the ADA literally. They thought it meant you employ a disabled person to handle it. Mentally disabled person.
Oh my God. Do you know what would be how funny it would be? Like, this is terrible, but to hire a Down syndrome person to respond to Montegraph by video, that would be the funniest. You just okay. Whew. I gotta get behind myself here. That's too much fun. I don't think the internet could take it. Westfield 90 says, honestly, love listening to two very smart people rather than the ordinary dime store quickie analysis from everyone else. Thank you both. Hey, thank you. Ben V. Barnes, I'm a 1L. What type of law should I focus on if I want to help people the way you do? Also, what's your go-to cigar? Loving the chill stream.
2 things. Don't focus on what you learn in law school at all. So just get through law school. Do best you can, of course, but you're not going to learn anything valuable about the law in law school. Go out and intern and clerk for free in the kind of laws that you think you might be interested in. And no lawyer will turn away. Well, not many lawyers will turn away free labor. So I did this all the time when I was in law school. So say I explored personal injury practice, explored corporate practice, nonprofit practice, a bunch of different practice areas, public interest law, et cetera, and just said, hey, I'd like to work for you for free. I think, and they'll say, fine, we'll give you some assignments and you'll get to watch it, participate in it. I always encourage people to go to court. That's what's great about what you're doing. They can watch the trial right at home if they want to. Watch real trials, get a sense of it. Do you like that? Do you not like that? Is that your kind of work or not? That's where you would learn best how to be a good trial lawyer. watch, participate, real trials. That's what I recommend. Go out and find the areas of law you think you might be interested in, clerk and offer free, 10 hours a week kind of thing, clerk internship, and learn, watch the practice, learn from it. Ideally, find the best mentors. There's a bunch of people that work for me that do that. The clerks that come in and work and give what little what time they can, and I try to introduce them to as many areas of practice, and I happen to have a broad practice area, so that if you want to do this kind of work, that kind of work, you want to do transactional work, litigation work, you want to do arbitration, mediation, trial work, you want to do appellate work, you want to do state work, you want to do federal work, I do all of it, civil work, criminal work, you name it. And you can take and pick and say, okay, I like this, that really wasn't my thing, I like this, but find that experience as well. Now, I would say the caveat is this. I always said the most difficult part when I was a young lawyer was finding some place to work for that wasn't run by a jerk. So that's
good luck.
That's the other thing. Yeah, exactly. Sadly, it was public interest people. You dealt with crazies. Personal injury people. You dealt with crazies. Corporate people. Public interest. Some of those people were crazy. So you have to find the right person ultimately. But if you're wanting the area of practice, go out and clerk and intern.
Yeah, lawyers are notorious belligerent assholes. So finding one who will be a good boss or manager is tough. Find someone who has hired a good boss and manager to help out with that. But yeah, that's great advice that I didn't take any of. Westfield 90 says, if Daily Wire were serious about their conservative role, they would build their own YouTube rather than sell razors. But of course, no need to upset the cart.
Oh, I forgot to answer the cigar question. I still like, if I talk to Crowder, say, okay, I got in one pocket, I got the best cigars in the world. Downside, they're commie cigars. Upside, a capitalist is the one who got them for me. And the other is good cigars, not quite as good. But if you want like an affordable introduction, it depends on whether you like spicy or not. If you try a Davidoff cigar for a more mild, good cigar, My Father cigars are real affordable for a spicy cigar, but you want something in the, say, $7 to $10 range.
I have a 22-inch cigar, Barnes.
Oh, sweet. You ever see those Monte Cristo? Oh, that's even longer. Do you ever see those old Monte Cristo double A's that they used to make out of Cuba? They're like huge. They're long. They're like that. They're beautiful cigars. You could smoke those for like half a day.
I had an 11-inch cigar, and I brought it to Anime Matsuri, and I said, this is my friend's penis. Because this is, and then someone's like, here you go. And they handed me this box, and it's called the Woody, and it's a 22-inch cigar. It's about this big around. I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell am I doing with this? Like, I can smoke like 3 inches of this at a time. It's going to be good. Maybe I'll bring it to Vegas. Finnegan Chief says, Barnes, when are you retiring to a farm in Pennsylvania, marrying an Amish lady and having a bunch of kids? Sounds like a fun Photoshop to me.
That's an escape plan. That's definitely a backup plan. Just I'll work for free Amish milk. And again, everybody, best milk in the world, fresh farm milk from Amos Miller, organicfarm.com.
Barnes, after those Amish milkers, you heard it here first. Peckerwood says there's a lot of speculation that DeMar Hamlin is dead. Face covered indoors the entire time, hasn't spoken to the media. Do you think he passed away? The NFL would hold it from the public. I mean, it's going to come out eventually. Like his family would say
weird.
something. So.
I mean, I'll tell you, it'd be an interesting thing if that ever did come out. You wonder whether that was why the Bills didn't do great, because they would have known that fact. The players, just couldn't handle the snow and played really weirdly bad. Several days before, I've been talking to my nephew because I was like, the way the NFL is handling this, it all feels kind of artificial, almost fake. His numbers everywhere and there are ceremonies everywhere. Just something feels a little off with this. And I was like, well, if I'm right that it's off, when he appears at the game, you'll never see his face. And then you never saw his face. And I was like, this is getting weird. I assume
maybe they keep it quiet through Super Bowl or something and then release it.
It would be a huge scandal. I assume it's just for some reason he didn't want his face to be seen. I think that's the more likely explanation, but it definitely was weird.
All right, guys, we're going Rumble exclusive right now. The link to the Rumble is in the description. There's a bunch of Rumble rants that we're going to read, or that I'm going to read. And as long as Mr. Barnes is here, we'll hang out with him. So come on over to Rumble. We have almost 16,000 people over there. To YouTube, I'll see you next time. If you're not coming to Rumble, and if you're not, I'm going to ask, why not? What's wrong with you, you bigot? You must be under contract with Daily Wire. We'll see you guys over there. Have a good night. Peace.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen,